Chapter 921, Big Fish Eat Small Fish. Chapter 921, Big Fish Eat Small Fish. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. The one-finger flow shark shot forward. Blazing Heaven Demoness cultivated fire path, not strength path. She knew it would be hard to resist it head-on. However, she had extremely rich experience, and the sacrifice of the small fire bird had huge value. Fang Yuan and the rest had been able to get some information from it. Blazing Heaven Demoness naturally was not an exception. Fire path killer move, 5 fingers blazing chains. At that instant, Blazing Heaven Demoness had already made the most sensible decision. She quickly retreated, while spreading open her right hand. Her 5 fingers turned into 5 thin flames. They were like whips or chains as they moved to tie up the one-finger flow shark. The 5 fire chains were just about to coil around the one-finger flow shark, when the previous scene occurred. The time in the area around the one-finger flow shark suddenly slowed down to an extreme. However, as a time path desolate beast, this had lesser restriction on the one-finger flow shark with its adapted traits and huge numbers of time path Dao marks. The 5 fire chains coiled around, but one-finger flow shark swayed nimbly, moving through the tiny gaps in an inconceivable way before successfully getting past them. It then charged towards Blazing Heaven Demoness, directly piercing through her forehead. The exquisite shark was like a silver arrow as it pierced out of the back of Blazing Heaven Demoness' head. Success. Su Bai Man was shocked as well as happy. Shark Demon's eyes shined with a ferocious and restless light. An immortal zombie's body did not have fatal points like normal Gu immortals, but the head was one of them. The thought processes of immortal zombies was slow, so they had to rely on wisdom path Gu worms to create thoughts and help them in their thinking. Blazing Heaven Demoness' head was pierced, although not fatal, it was a serious injury. If the 4 of us can take this chance to attack. The moment this thought appeared in Shark Demon's mind, the one-finger flow shark changed its direction, shooting backwards as it pierced through Blazing Heaven Demoness' chest. A dark fire burned, and in the blink of an eye, the holes in Blazing Heaven Demoness' head and chest had been restored to their former states. Even Fang Yuan was left speechless at this sight. Such a formidable killer move, it can actually make the recovery so fast. Blazing Heaven Demoness covered her chest as she stared fixedly at the one-finger flow shark. In spite of having been heavily injured, she was smiling. He, interesting. This has 3 time path immortal Gu, one can slow down time, one can speed up time, and the last can change the perception of time. Although she did not know what time path immortal Gu they were and what were the limits of their power, Blazing Heaven Demoness was able to make some rough conjectures. When the one-finger flow shark collided with the small fire bird and dodged the 5 fire chains, it had used the first time path immortal Gu to slow down time. As for accelerating time, it used it when it poked the fire bird. The fire bird could not be maintained for long, and a part of it had reached its limits after the one-finger flow shark had hit it. The explosion of this part subsequently caused the explosions of the other parts, finally destroying the stable structure of the fire bird, causing the fire bird to explode, which almost dried up the surrounding parts of the sea area. Finally, when the one-finger flow shark pierced through Blazing Heaven Demoness' forehead and chest, it used the last time path immortal Gu to influence Blazing Heaven Demoness' perception of time, causing her to not be able to dodge and take the attack directly. Shark Demon's frown not only became deeper, he also felt the situation had turned bad. The one-finger flow shark indeed clearly had the auras of 3 immortal Gu. In just a few moves, Blazing Heaven Demoness had already probed the details of the one-finger flow shark. This was a clear display of this rank 8 Gu immortal's extremely formidable proficiency in fighting. At the same time, it also showed the superiority of immortal killer moves to immortal Gu. Gu worms had one ability, others could often find the details of the immortal Gu after it was used just once. However, immortal killer moves were different. They were a combination of countless Gu worms. Not only did this conceal the core immortal Gu, enemies would also find it harder to counter the effect. Just like Shark Demon expected, as the fight continued, Blazing Heaven Demoness changed her battle tactics. She split into 5 or 6 clones, each was lifelike, the one-finger flow shark was tired out rushing this way and that. Its offensive was seemingly impressive, but it was actually being played by these clones to move around in circles. Wild beasts are wild beasts in the end, they don't have enough wisdom. If it had an investigative immortal Gu, maybe it could see through these clones, a pity. It looks like the battle situation is set. Blazing Heaven Demoness has already obtained the advantage. Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunxing secretly conversed, analyzing the battle situation. It could be said that at this stage, the battle had already lost any suspense. Regarding the one-finger flow shark, its real chance had been during the initial stages. If it could have used this opportunity when Blazing Heaven Demoness was still unaware of its trump cards, it perhaps could have killed her. But now that Blazing Heaven Demoness had probed out its cards, she had changed her tactics and immediately took over the battle situation. Unless there was an outside interference, this battle would have only one possible outcome. The only outside forces at present are Shark Demon and Su Bai Man. But do they truly have the courage to go against a rank 8 expert? Fang Yuan glanced at the immortal zombie couple and inwardly shook his head as he saw their hesitant looks. The true chance had been the instant Blazing Heaven Demoness' head was pierced. But Shark Demon already lost this chance. Although his name included the word demon, he lacked the mentality of taking risk in spite of danger. It could be because he had been part of Zombie Alliance for too long and lost the enthusiasm to fight by himself. It could also be that he had misgivings about dragging down Su Bai Man. Even Shark Demon and Su Bai Man, as the people involved, were like this. Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunxing, who were just external aid, would be even more unlikely to take this risk. After secretly communicating for a while, Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunxing made the decision to act according to the circumstances and look to retreat when there was a chance. Sirs, please make your moves. We are unable to distinguish the clones of Blazing Heaven Demoness. Sirs, if you have a method, please break this deception for the one-finger flow shark and point out the location of the true body of Blazing Heaven Demoness. This will make the situation turn for the better. At this moment, Su Bai Man suddenly transmitted her voice, requesting earnestly. At the same time, Shark Demon also added, if you can succeed, we will reward you heavily, you won't regret it. Without any consideration, Fang Yuan refused with a bitter smile. Lady Su Bai Man overestimates us. You two have been rank 7 Gu immortals for many years with plenty of methods and deep foundation, we are unable to match you. Even you two don't have a way to solve this, how can the two of us be of any help? Tai Bai Yunxing, similarly, shook his head, I only specialize in healing, this matter regarding investigation is beyond my ability. Su Bai Man did not say anything more while Shark Demon gave a gloomy look at Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunxing, his expression clearly not pleased. Fang Yuan snorted inwardly, feeling disdain towards Shark Demon and Su Bai Man. Honestly speaking, it was not that Blazing Heaven Demoness method could not be resolved. But Shark Demon and Su Bai Man did not make a move. It was because the other party was a rank 8 grade expert. Once they moved to help the one-finger flow shark, it definitely meant they would attract Blazing Heaven Demoness fury and her counterattack. Shark Demon and Su Bai Man feared Blazing Heaven Demoness and did not want to make a move, wanting to preserve some leeway, thus they wanted to make Fang Yuan and Tai Bai Yunxing cannon fodder. How could Fang Yuan be stupid enough to be used by others like this? Thus, his reply had deep intentions. Both sides were astute. Shark Demon and Su Bai Man realized Fang Yuan had seen through their plot, so they did not attempt to persuade any further. Now it seems the truly terrifying one is still Blazing Heaven Demoness. Fang Yuan gazed at the distant battlefield, not concealing his fearful expression. It was rumored that Blazing Heaven Demoness had a great killer move called Blazing Heaven. In the past, she had fought with the rank 8 Heavenly Lord Baizu in Northern Plains over possession of a certain fragment world of the immemorial 9 heavens, but in the end she failed, despite being on the verge of success. Blazing Heaven Demoness was so furious, she used the killer move Blazing Heaven to directly burn down the whole fragment world, annihilating countless living beings. If I can't have it, you can also stop dreaming about it. Heavenly Lord Baizu's hard work and plans all turned to dust at the last moment. Northern Plains Zombie Alliance belonged to the righteous path. Blazing Heaven Demoness, however, blatantly had taken a demonic path action. Thus, after burning down the fragment world, she incited public outrage. Blazing Heaven Demoness withstood the pressure without any fear, even proclaiming that if anyone continued to make a fuss, she would burn down that person's blessed land. Since she could even burn down a fragment world of the immemorial 9 heavens, burning down a blessed land was clearly a simple matter. The righteous path choked on their words, as they unexpectedly discovered they could do nothing to this brazen Blazing Heaven Demoness. At rank 8, one could be an overlord. If they truly shed off all pretenses and started sneak attacking and harassing, any force would feel an incomparable headache. Helpless. Even if the other party was an immortal zombie, she was a rank 8 great expert after all. Although her battle strength could not match a normal rank 8, it could not be looked down upon and was not someone they could force. If they went beyond the limit, and Blazing Heaven Demoness decided to attack, these righteous path forces with many assets to take care of would be the ones to suffer. Those with a bottom line are afraid of those with no bottom line, those who follow the rules are afraid of those who don't. After this matter, Blazing Heaven Demoness' name spread throughout Northern Plains. Northern Plains Zombie Alliance was able to hold their heads high and no one could bully them. It was only after Blazing Heaven Demoness left Northern Plains to look for fortuitous encounters in Eastern Sea that Northern Plains Zombie Alliance fell back into a predicament. It could be said that Blazing Heaven Demoness had single-handedly brought Northern Plains Zombie Alliance to power and glory. Now, Blazing Heaven Demoness was fighting against the one-finger flow shark without even using her signature killer moves. She clearly had a lot of spare strength left. Fang Yuan even had a slight suspicion that Blazing Heaven Demoness had intentionally used the clone technique to try to lure Shark Demon and the rest to attack, thus finding another excuse to make trouble. Although Shark Demon was not duped, Blazing Heaven Demoness' move had created a rift between Fang Yuan and Shark Demon. The one-finger flow shark, an immemorial desolate beast with 3-time path immortal Gu, Blazing Heaven Demoness was not only dealing with it easily, but she had successfully plotted against Shark Demon, Fang Yuan and the rest who were observing the battle. It was clear that Blazing Heaven Demoness had outstanding battle strength along with skill in strategy. This type of enemy was extremely hard to deal with. To put it in other words, Gu immortals who could slowly climb up from rank 1 to rank 8 were certain to not be idiots, each of them were true experts rich in both wisdom and battle strength. As the battle progressed, Shark Demon and Su Bai Man's expressions became even more gloomy. They had already secretly sent requests for reinforcements to Zombie Alliance's headquarters at the start of the battle. The battle had lasted for so long that those who should have come would have already arrived, but no reinforcements had arrived. Blazing Heaven Demoness had not arrived rashly, she had already bribed those in charge and made sufficient preparations, which was why Shark Demon and Su Bai Man's requests for reinforcements were ineffective. Shark Demon even guessed that Blazing Heaven Demoness had already reached an agreement of sharing profits with the highest-ranking members of Zombie Alliance. In an instant, Shark Demon and Su Bai Man's hearts sank to rock bottom, their intent to battle kept lowering and the anger in them gradually dissipated, leaving behind extreme bleakness. Big fish eat small fish eat shrimps, this was the normal course of behavior in this world of Gu. This couple, who had been big fish since the beginning, now became small fish in front of Blazing Heaven Demoness. Rank 8. How could they match her? Let alone when Blazing Heaven Demoness not only had such strength, she also had matching intelligence. Shark Demon and Su Bai Man simply did not have any hope no matter how hard they struggled. Sigh. Shark Demon heaved a long sigh before he suddenly lowered his head. Enough, Lady Blazing Heaven Demoness, please stop. We are not capable enough, in consideration of Zombie Alliance's situation, it would be better if you lead us to take down Yulu Blessed Land. He, Shark Demon, you know when to advance or retreat, very good. Blazing Heaven Demoness' laughter came from above the battlefield. Her laughter stopped, and the fake bodies in the battlefield burned until there was nothing remaining. Without a target to attack, the one-finger flow shark stayed dazedly in place, seemingly at a loss on what to do. Shark Demon heaved another sigh, as he pursed his lips and let out hooting sounds. The one-finger flow shark was pacified, it lightly swung its tail as it dived into the sea again and soon disappeared. Clearly, it had gone back to the river of time. Shark Demon's method gave a shock to outsiders like Fong Yuan. Shark Demon's influence over the one-finger flow shark was already quite remarkable. Given some time, he might truly be able to control this immemorial desolate beast. At that time, the three-time path immortal Gu on the one-finger flow shark would naturally fall into Shark Demon's hands. Blazing Heaven Demoness revealed her true body. She gave a deep look at Shark Demon before turning her gaze towards Fong Yuan. You are Xianxia. I am. Blazing Heaven Demoness announced with a forceful tone that allowed no refusal. From now onwards, I have enlisted you. In the following invasion of Yu blessed land, you must use your full capabilities. I won't allow any slacking. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 922, Conclusion of the 100 Days Battle. Chapter 922, Conclusion of the 100 Days Battle. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Hearing Blazing Heaven Demoness command him so overbearingly, Fong Yuan was not angry at all. On the contrary, he was somewhat pleased. Shark Demon and Su Bai Man, this couple had put in a lot of effort to attack Yu blessed land. In the end, right before they obtained the fruits of their labor, Blazing Heaven Demoness forcefully took them for herself. They were really pitiful. Shark Demon and Su Bai Man had put in so much, almost all of their life savings had been invested into it. After getting robbed by Blazing Heaven Demoness, they were heavily crippled. They lost a great deal. In Fong Yuan's previous life, Shark Demon and Su Bai Man died while Shark Sea was invaded by others. Was this part of the cause? But Fong Yuan did not feel distaste for Blazing Heaven Demoness actions. He also did not feel pity towards the predicament of Shark Demon and Su Bai Man. If he had Blazing Heaven Demoness cultivation level, he might have been more overbearing in his actions. Big fish eat small fish. This was the rule of the cultivation world. It was bloodthirsty and cruel. But any person who was older and had more experience would understand, this was the norm. It extended to all parts of nature. Even before Fong Yuan transmigrated, the human society on Earth was the same. When benefits were involved, friends would betray each other, brothers would become enemies. This was all too common. The only difference was, they used excuses to make their actions seem grand and righteous. The truth was, there were people who, on the surface, were virtuous, but in the dark, they were dirty and despicable. But this was not wrong. To survive and reproduce was the nature of all living beings. But Blazing Heaven Demoness interference created a huge impact that would influence Fong Yuan's plans. Blazing Heaven Demoness has high cultivation level. She is also astute and calculative, more difficult to deal with than Shark Demon and Su Bai Man by 100-fold. But she has quite a lot of wealth. Maybe she can subsidize me in refining star thought immortal Gu. There is also another advantage. Getting close to her would give me a greater chance of returning to Northern Plains Zombie Alliance and entering Earth Trench, in order to get that treasure. In a breath of time, Fong Yuan had already thought matters through. The moment Blazing Heaven Demoness finished her words, Fong Yuan cupped his fists, smiling bitterly. I would not dare to defy Lady Blazing Heaven Demoness orders. But I have my difficulties. I had just mentioned this to Lord Shark Demon earlier. In order to unravel the final battlefield killer move, I will need to refine a rank 6 wisdom path immortal Gu first. Shark Demon snorted coldly. Fong Yuan had changed sides rather too quickly. Su Bai Man thought to herself, this Xianxia seemed to be a gentleman ordinarily, but to think that he was without a backbone, he could fawn and bend over to others to curry favor, he had no integrity at all. Fong Yuan did not care about their thoughts. They were already out of this game. Meanwhile, Fong Yuan, who joined partway, managed to stay. Seeing Fong Yuan's straightforward gaze, Blazing Heaven Demoness rubbed her chin. She smiled with deep meaning. You want to refine immortal Gu? He, this is easy. I will fund you. Northern Plains, Luo Pa Valley. Another earth-shaking intense battle had just reached its end. As the battlefield, Luopa Valley was in bad shape, crushed rocks were everywhere, it was as if this was the aftermath of both an earthquake and a hurricane. The Gu immortals from Central Continent had various injuries, they were focusing their attentions on Feng Gu right now. Admiration, trepidation, confusion, heaviness, fear, complexity, they had a number of different emotions. Feng Gu won again. His opponent is Qin Baisheng, but even with his strength, he could not resist Feng Gu's powerful attacks. He has already won 7 battles in a row, Qin Baisheng is completely at a disadvantage against Feng Gu. The 100 Days battle, only after 100 days did we see its results. Honestly speaking, Qin Baisheng is immensely strong, but he actually faced off against an even stronger opponent, Feng Gu. Looking at the time, Central Continent's gang had reached Luopa Valley and attacked it for over 3 months, met with the stubborn resistance of Shadow Sect's Qin Baisheng and others. 100 Days battle. This was a true 100 Days battle. Under normal circumstances, Gu immortals would not fight for such a long time. In terms of scale, there were more than 10 Gu immortals from Central Continent and Northern Plains involved, they were all shining experts. One could say, for the last 1,000 years in the 5 regions, there had not been a battle of such scale. If this was announced, the world would be shaken, commotions would arise, the attentions of innumerable observers would gather on them. But it was a pity, be it the Central Continent Gu immortals who were investigating secretly, or the hidden Shadow Sect which sought to remain in the dark, they did not want this battle to be exposed. Thus, this battle that should have shaken the whole of the 5 regions remained a secret from start to finish. Regarding this, the two sides had a sort of tacit understanding. Ever since the 100 Days battle started, the crucial members had always been Feng Gu and Qin Baisheng. Initially, they were equally matched, it was a stalemate. Qin Baisheng, who had the territorial advantage and the battlefield killer move 100 million slaughter field, showed a slight edge. But after that, Feng Gu got stronger as he fought, he displayed his immense talent and ability. The two sides gradually became even, then Feng Gu expanded his advantage little by little. Eventually, in the last few days, Feng Gu's battle strength had risen after a long period of intense fighting, and finally defeated Qin Baisheng. 1 or 2 wins was nothing. But winning 7 fights consecutively, it proved that Feng Gu firmly had obtained the advantage. The Shadow Sect members slowly retreated to the deepest part of Luopa Valley. A desperate foe should not be pursued. Feng Gu stood proudly at the front, seeing that their enemies had hidden into the valley, he spoke calmly. His expression was pale, he had over a dozen injuries on him, blood was dripping from the corners of his mouth and his eyebrows. His originally brimming Gu immortal aura had weakened to an all-time low. But all these could not obscure the brilliance in his eyes. Every time he fought Qin Baisheng, it was a difficult and dangerous fight. But it was because of these tough fights that Feng Gu could be polished, like a rock polishing a jade and turning it brighter. Ever since Feng Gu joined Spirit Affinity House, he rarely had the chance to engage in such intense fights. Spirit Affinity House was one of the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent. Feng Gu had a high status and reputation, nobody wanted to find trouble with him. This battle that went on for 100 days would make other Gu immortals feel pain and anguish, but Feng Gu felt a nostalgic euphoria. This made him think about the splendid times when he was still in the demonic path. But, there was a slight regret in his heart. Demonic path, using all of my strength to fight, it is a pity, I can no longer return to such an exciting time. Right now, Feng Gu had a family, he could not take risks easily. Furthermore, these Gu immortals behind him were from the other 9 sects, their intentions were hard to decipher. If Feng Gu really got heavily injured after fighting, who knew what actions they would take? Feng Gu remembered what his wife, Bai Qing, had instructed him. After all, back then, Feng Gu had challenged all 10 sects and made them lose their faces. After joining Spirit Affinity House, he had been suppressing the other 9 sects without giving them any chance to overturn the situation. Whenever Feng Gu spoke, the other immortals had to listen. After the 100 Days battle, Feng Jiuji's reputation was already deeply ingrained into everyone's hearts. Cough cough cough. After Qin Baixing retreated into the valley, he started to cough uncontrollably. His expression was pale as paper. Each time he coughed, there was blood. Your injuries are getting more severe. Fairy Jiangyu, who was holding him, said in worry. She was frowning tightly. Feng Jiugu is too despicable. He Lang Zi, who had lost an arm, growled angrily. Even though he is fighting you alone on the surface, he is actually getting his people to act like they are charging ahead, threatening our defenses and forcing you to be distracted. If not for that, why would you lose consecutively? Qin Baixing said grimly, say no more. Winner takes all, a loss is a loss, there is no need for excuses. This Feng Jiugu truly has immense talent. Using his own understanding, he created his personal sound path killer move and got to this stage. Even as an enemy, I am truly in admiration. Using his own advantages to scheme, plot, and gather superiority, that is the way of fighting. If he did not use these methods, would have looked down on him. Saying this, Qin Baixing coughed again, spitting out a huge pool of warm blood. He gasped weakly, looking around him. After the 100 Days battle, only 5 were left: Hui Fengzi, He Cheng, Jiang Yu, He Lang Zi, and the mysterious black-robed Gu immortal. Originally, they had Xue Song Zi, but when they attacked Langya Blessed Land, he was killed by Fang Yuan. After leaving Langya Blessed Land, 2 hairy man Gu immortals joined them, but both of them were killed by the Central Continent Gu immortals in the 100 Days battle. However, the Central Continent Gu immortals suffered greater losses. Old Oracle from Ancient Soul Sect, as well as 2 Gu immortals from Spirit Butterfly Valley and Combat Immortal Sect had died. Trying to take advantage of Qin Baixing, how could that be possible? Even Central Continent's 10 great ancient sects had suffered heavy losses. But at this point, the most crucial member, the pillar of support, Qin Baixing, was heavily injured. Luo Pa Valley's territorial advantage had been overcome. The remaining 5 Gu immortals knew, the 100 Days battle had ended, they were the losers. Qin Baixing tried to improve their mindsets. Even though we lost the battle, it is not over yet. Feng Jiuji's group is not united, they cannot fight us wholeheartedly. I successfully stalled for enough time. We just need to wait for one more night. When that immortal Gu matures in the valley, we would have achieved our goal. Tomorrow, all 5 of you will charge out. I will stall these people from Central Continent. Lord Qin Baixing. Everyone was shocked. Qin Baixing's decision was simply courting death. This was hard to understand. From their perspectives, if it was Hui Fengzi, He Cheng or He Lang Zi, they would definitely only care about their own lives when they were in this state. Why would they care about others? Or, was this a trap? Hui Fengzi, He Cheng, and He Lang Zi kept their thoughts to themselves. They looked at the 3 people from Shadow Sect secretly. Qin Baixing, Jiang Yu, and the mysterious black-robed Gu immortal, they were the core of Shadow Sect, the others were just outside reinforcements. Silence ensued. Everyone walked to their resting places. This will be it. Use this time to rest. Tomorrow, your performances will decide whether you succeed in breaking out or not. Qin Baixing waved his hand weakly, dismissing them. He Cheng, Hui Fengzi, and He Lang Zi felt very heavy, their gazes was uncertain. The 3 wordlessly decided to rest together. They were guarding against the possible betrayal of Shadow Sect. But late into the night, the 3 were summoned by Qin Baixing. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 923, Breaking Out. Chapter 923, Breaking Out. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Late at night, in Luo Pa Valley. Qin Baixing and the other 5 immortals gathered. Qin Baixing handed an immortal Gu to the mysterious black-robed Gu immortal openly. This immortal Gu is very important, I am entrusting it to you now. The black-robed Gu immortal nodded. He was wrapped in a shroud of obscurity, even up until this point, none of the Gu immortals outside of Shadow Sect had seen his appearance. They only knew that he had outstanding battle strength, around the upper tier of rank 7. Qin Baixing turned around, instructing Xianxia seriously, "I can die, you can also die. But he is needed for the plan, we cannot lose him." Fairy Xianxia nodded solemnly in return, "I can only guarantee that before I die, he will not perish." He Cheng and the others listened in astonishment. What sort of organization was Shadow Sect? It could make these Gu immortal disregard losses to themselves, even if they had to sacrifice their lives, they had to complete the mission. To make Gu immortals so loyal, it was difficult for even super forces to achieve. This was an unimaginable matter. A moment later, the silent Luopa Valley erupted into thunderous explosions. An intensely loud sound filled the whole valley. At the same time, there was a shrill warning, "Enemy attack." Fairy Ling Mei, who was warning them, retreated continuously. In front of her, Xianxia, Huifeng Zi, Helang Zi, He Cheng, and the mysterious black-robed Gu immortal attacked jointly. The enemy was attacking with such force, how could Fairy Ling Mei defend against them? She only had one thought, that was to escape. Fairy Ling Mei came from Heaven's Envy Manor. She and Fairy Ao Shui had control over the rank 7 Crescent Moon Gu. They could unleash the killer move Peerless Crescent Moon Slash if they cooperated. Peerless Crescent Moon Slash was extremely powerful, it was one of the signature famous killer moves of Heaven's Envy Manor. Fairy Ao Shui and Fairy Ling Mei had always been together constantly, they were hardly ever separated. But now, because there were limited people in Central Continent's group, they had to encircle the huge area of Luopa Valley, thus, Ling Mei and Ao Shui had no choice but to split up. Once Shadow Sect's group burst out, Fairy Ling Mei was caught off guard, she fought alone and fell into an extremely dangerous situation. Kill her. Fairy Xianxia, who was at the lead of the 5 Gu immortals, was bursting with killing intent, her eyes were red and her attacks were fierce. Even though Fairy Ling Mei was a peerless beauty with grand elegance, none of the 5 Gu immortals showed her any mercy because of it. Their killer moves were used in succession, they would only stop after Fairy Ling Mei was dead. At the moment between life and death, Fairy Ling Mei resolutely chose to destroy an immortal Gu, stalling 3 breaths of time for her. During this period, Fairy Ling Mei activated a Gu formation, her body vanished amidst the wind and rain, at the next moment, she appeared far away. Huff! 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 Fairy Ling Mei breathed roughly, her face was pale. She had escaped with her life, her face showed lingering fear, her back was covered in cold sweat. So close, so close. I was at the moment between life and death, it is all thanks to this Gu formation. Fairy Ling Mei felt gratitude inside. This Gu formation was set up by Gu immortal Hong Qiming after putting in a lot of effort. Hong Qiming came from Wind Cloud Manor, one of the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent, he was skilled in Gu formations and was famous in Central Continent. Gu formations had a point of inferiority to killer moves in that they could not be activated instantly. They took a long time to activate, and were not flexible enough to be used for a wide range of applications in intense battles. However, once they were activated, they would provide a huge advantage, they were often faster than immortal killer moves and expended less resources. Precisely because of this, Fairy Ling Mei survived. Seeing that Fairy Ling Mei had escaped, Fairy Xianxia sighed internally. The other 4 Gu immortals also showed regretful looks. Earlier, during the 100 Days battle, Ling Mei and Ao Shui had collaborated to unleash Peerless Crescent Moon Slash, they were a huge threat to Shadow Sect, almost all the Gu immortals were injured by this move to varying degrees. Unfortunately, Shadow Sect initially had the territorial advantage. However, Central Continent took down their Gu formations one by one, and now, the Central Continent Gu immortals created their own Gu formations, the outer area of Luopa Valley was now their territory. Since we can't kill her, we will continue charging out. Fairy Xianxia shouted. She moved with determination and resolution. Ling Mei retreated, Central Continent's side immediately had a gap in their defenses. They needed to break out of this encirclement quickly, the chance was slipping. Ling Mei, are you alright? Fairy Ao Shui wore a white blouse. She came over quickly, showing shock and anger on her face. We won't let you go, die here. Chen Zhenqi shouted. Isn't it too late now to want to leave? Bu Fei Yan sneered. Even though Fairy Ao Shui and Fairy Ling Mei were separated, they were situated quite closely, thus, she could arrive first. As for Chen Zhenqi and Bu Fei Yan, they could reach at the same time as Fairy Ao Shui because they had incredible speed. Zhenqi of the 9 heavens, followed by Fei Yan, damn it. He Qing gritted his teeth, feeling great pressure. Chen Zhenqi and Bu Fei Yan were 2 famous flying grandmasters in the current central continent Gu immortal world. Zhenqi of the 9 heavens referred to myriad dragon docks Chen Zhenqi, while followed by Fei Yan, was speaking about heavenly lotus sex Bu Fei Yan. Xianxia and the other immortals wanted to break out of this place. Their biggest concern were the pursuers excelling in speed like these 2. Seeing the 3 of them get close, the 5 immortals on Shadow Sect's side did not even say a thing, they only focused on breaking out. At this moment, a wall of light appeared, blocking the 5 immortals. It was the activation of a Gu formation. This was the work of Wind Cloud Manor's Hong Chi Ming. Although Hong Chi Ming was not inside, his voice was heard from within the Gu formation. Lord Feng Jiugu had already predicted that you would break out. Surrender now and we might spare your lives. Once he said this, an immensely powerful aura got closer to them like a rushing dragon. This aura was so grand and magnificent, Shadow Sect's members were familiar with it. It was Feng Jiugu. They felt cold sweat breaking out as they showed panic on their faces. After the 100 days battle, the 5 immortals knew clearly, even if they worked together, they were not Feng Jiuji's match. Was their attempt at escaping going to fail? When the 5 immortals were close to despair, a golden arrow shot over, piercing the wall of light that obstructed them. Far away, Hong Chi Ming's body shook and jolted, as if he was shocked by electricity. He spat out a mouthful of blood, suffering a heavy injury. The one who shot the golden arrow was Qin Baisheng. How could he watch as the 5 immortals failed? Thus, he forcefully moved his wounded body, blocking Ling Mei, Ao Shui, Chen Zhenqi, and Bu Fei Yan. The 4 central continent Gu immortals arrived quickly but also lost quickly. They did not just lose, they failed completely. Like Feng Jiugu, Qin Baisheng was not someone the other central continent Gu immortals could stop. Qin Baisheng did not kill the 4 immortals from central continent, he allowed them to retreat. His attention was primarily focused on Feng Jiugu. Feng Jiuji's gaze was shining, he had already understood Qin Baisheng's injury. He smiled with much elegance, saying, "You are all rushing about, it is inappropriate to leave without saying goodbye. If you want to leave, you should at least listen to my parting song, right? Immortal Killer Move, Green Jade Song." The 5 immortals on Shadow Sect's side retreated, someone cried out in pain while another grunted. Green Jade Song's mysterious power affected the 5 immortals to an extent. After being hit, their bodies slowly turned into jade, and the area was spreading continuously. The 5 immortals were resolute figures, they knew this was a problem and immediately shattered or dug out their contaminated flesh. At once, blood flowed like a river. Immortal Killer Move, Soul Suppression. At the next moment, Qin Baisheng struck, his powerful soul path technique was aimed at Feng Jiuji's face, pressuring him. Feng Jiuji's expression changed, he quickly defended himself. Qin Baisheng had 2 major trump cards, one was the Soul Path Killer Move Soul Suppression, the other was the Sword Path Killer Move 5-Finger Fist Heart Sword. Once used, ordinary Gu immortals could not even endure one hit from him. Feng Jiugu had 3 trump cards, the first was Heaven and Earth Song, second was Green Jade Song, and third was Submission Song. Not only were they powerful and grand, they were also profound and mystical. Feng Jiuji's attention was drawn, Green Jade Song halted as the 5 immortals felt their pressure decreasing, they quickly rushed away for a distance. Qin Baisheng used a Metal Path Killer Move again. Golden chains coiled around Feng Jiuji's limbs, tying him up tightly. Feng Jiugu was not frightened. During the 100 Days battle, the two had learned a lot about each other. Qin Baixing's metal path killer move had little effect on Feng Jiugu. The golden chains were much more effective against Chen Jinqi and others. Against Feng Jiugu, he only needed a breath of time before shattering them. But at this moment, Qin Baixing showed a wry smile on his face. "I'll let you see the true secret within Luopa Valley now." Saying this, he used his method and activated something. Countless mystical lights shot out from the valley, one of them hit Feng Jiugu. This is... Feng Jiugu shattered the golden chains, but because this used up his time, he could not dodge the mystical light and was immobilized. The power of space path. How can this be so strong? Not far away, the two fairies, Ling Mei and Ao Shui, were also hit by the mystical light. Their expressions changed as they gasped. As for Chen Jinqi and Bu Fei Yan, they were extremely fast, they dodged the mystical light. Qin Baixing did not care about them, his main goal was to restrict Feng Jiugu. Right now, half of his goal had been achieved. Don't struggle. This light is harmless. Feng Jiugu understood at once, he shouted as he reminded them. Ao Shui and Ling Mei were uncertain, but at the next moment, they saw that Feng Jiugu stopped resisting and was dragged into a deep part of Luopa Valley by the mystical light. Qin Baixing's smile became wider, he approached a mystical light and was dragged into the valley as well. Ao Shui and Ling Mei looked at each other, they gritted their teeth, deciding to believe Feng Jiugu. They stopped resisting as they entered the valley as well. This change of events was out of everyone's expectations. They were only stunned for a moment before Chen Jinqi reacted and shouted at the Shadow Sect immortals, "Take them down first." This was a wise decision. Seeing that they were about to break out, the 5 Shadow Sect immortals were held back by Chen Jinqi and Bu Fei Yan. Next, Hong Chi Ming, Old Lord Kenyang, and Old Man Tian Long arrived, engaging in fierce combat. One side fought desperately to leave, while the other side desperately prevented their escape. "Ah, someone save me!" He Qing shouted, he was the weakest here, he was hit by a move and had been detached from the main party. "Ignore him, protect our main target, continue to break out." Fairy Jiangyu shouted, she heartlessly abandoned He Qing, protecting the mysterious black-robed Gu immortal with all her effort. At the same time, deep within Luopa Valley, in a mysterious place. Where is this? Ao Shui and Ling Mei looked around in shock and suspicion. So this was it. Feng Jiugu, who had entered before them, had already retracted his gaze. This is actually a hidden thieving heaven demon, venerable true inheritance. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 924, Discarding this ruined body to exchange for a clear breeze. Chapter 924, Discarding this ruined body to exchange for a clear breeze. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. In the mystical area, light shined warmly, there were no mountains or rivers, neither wind nor land, it was completely blank. That is true. Once Feng Jiugu spoke, Qin Baixing appeared in front of him, looking at the 3 immortals from Central Continent, he smiled deeply. If not for thieving heaven demon venerable's arrangement, how could I lure Brother Feng here? Indeed. Even though Qin Baixing was very powerful, he was still at a loss against a 1 in 1,000 years monster like Feng Jiugu. Especially when Qin Baixing's 2 trump cards were not for trapping enemies, they were for killing. To temporarily trap Feng Jiugu, he had to activate the arrangements that thieving heaven demon venerable had personally set up in the past. This really is thieving heaven demon venerable's inheritance? Fairy Ling Mei asked in a heated tone. Since ancient times, in the long history of Gu cultivators, there were countless geniuses and heroes. But if these people were akin to shining stars in the sky, then the 10 rank 9 Gu immortals were each like the sun, they were bright and dazzling, spreading their radiance over the whole world. Every generation's venerable, be it an immortal venerable or a demon venerable, was at the peak of that era, they dominated the world and were invincible, unparalleled in their time. Among them, Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable was also a legend. He excelled in space path and had unparalleled stealing abilities. He even cultivated transformation path simultaneously and was skilled at disguises. Before he was rank 9, he could transform into all sorts of people and use their identities to achieve his unspeakable motives. He even caused huge commotions over the world, sending it into chaos. Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable also had a close relationship with Long-Hair Ancestor. The failure to refine Space Escape Gu became Long-Hair Ancestor's obsession. After death, it had become a legend. Such a person, his inheritance, was actually before them. Be it Ling Mei or Ao Shui, these two fairies who had icy hearts felt excited, their hearts were burning with ambition. But Feng Jiugu quickly discouraged them, don't even think about it. Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable's inheritance is not something you can obtain. Ling Mei and Ao Shui's expressions changed. That's right, there was still Feng Jiugu and Qin Baixing here. With these two experts around, how could Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable's inheritance become theirs? At once, Ling Mei and Ao Shui felt great disappointment. Feng Jiuji's back was facing them, he stood in front of them but understood their emotions. He continued, you misunderstand my words. Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable's inheritance has a strict requirement, both of you do not fulfill it, I do not fulfill it, and even Brother Qin also has no chance of inheriting it. Ling Mei and Ao Shui were shocked. One of them asked, there is such a thing? Qin Baixing laughed loudly, Brother Feng really knows a lot about Thieving Heaven's true inheritance. It seems the rumors are true, Spirit Affinity House indeed possesses one of the true inheritances of Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable. They have been researching it for a long time, a pity there have been no gains. Feng Jiuji's eyes shined with brilliance, he stared at Qin Baixing, admitting, to think that Brother Qin knows so much about Central Continent's details despite living in Northern Plains. That is true, my sect controls a true inheritance of Thieving Heaven and have been researching it for many years, we have learned some things after these years. Ling Mei and Ao Shui looked at each other, they were unwilling to give up. Fairy Ling Mei asked, may I ask Lord Feng Jiugu, what is the criteria to inherit it? Maybe we can achieve it, who knows? Feng Jiuji's gaze had been fixed on Qin Baixing, he did not dare to be careless. He said, do you know Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable's origin? He is not a person of the 5 regions, he is from the outside world, an otherworldly demon. Thus, the inheritances that he left behind only have one requirement towards the inheritor, they have to be an otherworldly demon. I am obviously not one, Brother Qin cannot be one, otherwise he would have inherited it long ago, why would he wait until now? Are you two otherworldly demons? Before Ling Mei and Ao Shui replied, Qin Baixing flicked his sleeves and laughed, he denied the possibility, impossible. All the Gu immortals in the 100 Days battle are not otherworldly demons. If not, why would I let any of you in here? Otherworldly demons? They really exist. Since the start of my life, I have never seen one. Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable was actually an otherworldly demon. Ling Mei and Ao Shui were taken aback. Feng Jiugu nodded, even though otherworldly demons are rare, they exist. Since they come from beyond our world, then outside of the 5 regions and 9 heavens, there are bound to be other worlds. Unfortunately, no one has ever ventured out of the Gu world. Ling Mei and Ao Shui looked at each other, they asked again. Other than the 5 regions, there are really other worlds outside. Even if we cannot achieve this condition, the inheritance is fixed in place, while we humans are alive, don't tell me that even with Lord Feng Jiuji's power, you cannot take it forcefully. They were unwilling to give up. This was a Thieving Heaven true inheritance. The experts could take the meat while they could have some soup, the 2 female immortals were not greedy for more, they just wanted to have a share of the loot. Qin Baixing sneered, wishful thinking. Back then, even after Giant Sun Immortal Venerable became rank 9, he still returned empty-handed after encountering a Thieving Heaven true inheritance. Not only did he get nothing, he even suffered a loss and ended up in a pathetic state. If not for that, why would Giant Sun Immortal Venerable hate otherworldly demons to this extent? The 2 of you think you can obtain this true inheritance? There was such a thing. This is too absurd. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable is also a rank 9 Gu immortal, he could not even take one of Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable's true inheritances even after he died. Ling Mei and Ao Shui stared with their beautiful eyes wide open, they half believed and half doubted this. Feng Jiugu did not refute it, he said solemnly, thieving heaven demon venerable's space path attainment was unfathomably deep, it surpasses the imagination of people. There is a theory, because he was an otherworldly demon, when he became a space path Gu immortal, a special type of space path Dao mark was produced. These Dao marks originate from another world, they are foreign to the 5 regions and 9 heavens. The space we are in now, it seems ordinary, but it had already transcended the Gu world, it is not within the 5 regions and 9 heavens. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable wanted to obtain the true inheritance, but he was afraid of the implications, thus he failed and suffered a loss, unable to do anything about it. Ling Mei and Ao Shui gasped in shock. The two of them were too inexperienced compared to Feng Jiugu and Qin Baisheng, this was the first time they had heard about such secrets regarding the venerables. At once, Ling Mei and Ao Shui felt their horizons expanding. But soon, they became worried and anxious. Not even Giant Sun Immortal Venerable could do anything to this mystical space, how can we get out? Don't worry, as long as we do not move, in 15 minutes, we will be teleported out. Feng Jiugu replied confidently. If it were other Gu immortals who landed here, they would use their methods to investigate. In that case, they would be in trouble. The time that they were trapped would be extended. But Spirit Affinity House possessed one of Thieving Heaven's true inheritances, and Feng Jiugu was a higher-up in Spirit Affinity House, he knew the proper way to leave this true inheritance. But at this moment, Qin Baisheng raised his head and laughed, Feng Jiugu. Since I took great pains to lure you in here, how can I let you leave? Stay here for good. Saying this, Qin Baisheng struck. His powerful aura burst into the air. Ling Mei and Ao Shui acted like they were facing a strong foe. Feng Jiugu quickly said, don't move. In this place, it might seem like we are close to each other, but we are actually very far away from each other. He is trying to lure you to attack, once you do, this place will change and target whoever attacks. The stronger the attack, the greater the backlash from this place, and the longer you will be trapped. Do not fall into his trap. Feng Jiugu was very aware regarding this Thieving Heaven true inheritance. He was clear about the terrifying power of this mystical space. Even though he was proud and powerful, he did not dare to act rashly. Ling Mei and Ao Shui chose to believe Feng Jiugu, they held in their impulse and did not attack. But Qin Baisheng showed a weird smile, Brother Feng is very confident, but it is a pity that your sect has not researched deeply enough into Thieving Heaven's true inheritances. I wonder what you will do against my next action. He spoke calmly as he activated the Gu worms in his body, his aura burst out and reached its peak. What is he trying to do? Feng Jiugu felt something amiss, he focused himself, his gaze was like lightning, looking at Qin Baisheng fixedly. But at the next moment, Qin Baisheng's action was something out of the Central Continent Immortals' expectations. They only heard Qin Baisheng recite. Even after experiencing 54 tribulations, the sky is still filled with tribulation clouds. The soul light in my chest pressures everyone, the sword qi in my fist dominates northern plains. 400 years passed rapidly, how can there be life without death? Discarding this ruined body to exchange for a clear breeze, I will sweep the heavens for countless light years. His voice was clear and loud, he spoke with a calm expression, his gaze showed a sign of expectation towards the future. After finishing this poem, he smiled lightly at Feng Jiugu. Next, he shut his eyes, all signs of life leaving his body. Feng Jiugu frowned tightly, even during the 100 Days battle, he did not show such an expression. At this moment, Qin Baisheng had actually ended his own life. At the next moment, a clear breeze started from within Qin Baisheng's body. Behind Feng Jiugu, Ling Mei and Ao Shui's expressions changed, their voices were trembling from fear, they screamed, winds of assimilation. As it turned out, in order to stop Feng Jiugu, Qin Baisheng had given up his own life, making the ultimate sacrifice. His method was ruthless, he directly destroyed his own immortal aperture. Once the immortal aperture was destroyed, without other immortal apertures to hold it, winds of assimilation started blowing. Winds of assimilation were extraordinary, they assimilated everything, even rank 8 Gu immortals had to avoid them at all costs. And in this mystical true inheritance space, if five-finger fist heart sword or heaven and earth song were used, it would only be like a pebble tossed into a lake. At this moment, winds of assimilation blew, even though it was a clear breeze, the entire mystical space started shaking, it was as if water on a lake was boiled, there were ripples forming in the space unceasingly. Feng Jiugu had a solemn expression. Against Qin Baisheng's resolute attack, he had to face it with all of his ability, if he was careless, he would die. Behind him, Ling Mei and Ao Shui had activated their Gu worms, protecting their bodies. Even Feng Jiugu had to activate his immortal Gu, of course they had to do the same. Leaving the mystical space was another issue now. They had to survive this crisis first. Otherwise, it would be a pointless thing to worry about. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 925, Blazing Glory Lightning Brilliance. Chapter 925, Blazing Glory Lightning Brilliance. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. 2 flowers blossomed, each branching in different directions. Ignoring the situation of Qin Baisheng sacrificing himself to create the winds of assimilation trapped Feng Jiugu, Ling Mei, and Ao Shui in a dangerous situation for now. Looking instead at Jiang Yu and the other immortals breaking out. They were about to escape, but He Cheng was hit by a killer move and fell. His face was pale as he shouted for help. However, they were all escaping for their lives, every second was important, at the crucial moment, any hesitation would mean the difference between life and death. The immortals ignored him, they only raised their own speeds to the limits. Fairy Jiang Yu was even more heartless, she directly told them to abandon him, disregarding He Cheng's life or death. They were so close to escaping, freedom was right in front of them. He Cheng was lagging behind, couldn't he be useful in stalling the central continent Gu immortals? However, he controlled the immortal Gu house dark prison, after He Cheng died, it might end up in the central continent Gu immortals' hands. That was a slight pity to Jiang Yu and the others. But it was only slightly regretful, compared to the immortal Gu house, their own lives were more important. He, you can all continue playing around. I'm out of here. While they were breaking out, Hui Fengzi laughed loudly. Immortal killer move, wind escape. His speed rose sharply, in a few breaths of time, he was way ahead of Jiang Yu and the others. Seeing Jiang Yu and the others' fiery gazes, Hui Fengzi flew even faster. Cooperate with me. Hong Chi Ming shouted. Gu formations at the outer area activated, giving off bright light. After the 100 Days battle, the central continent Gu immortals had gained some coordination. Where are you going? Chen Zhenqi and Bu Fei Yan moved out, using a Gu formation at the periphery to chase and block Hui Fengzi. Hui Fengzi was known as the fastest in northern plains, he came and went like the wind, central continent Gu immortals had to admit that. Just Chen Zhenqi or Bu Fei Yan alone could not stop Hui Fengzi. But now, they were cooperating with much coordination. At once, no matter how Hui Fengzi maneuvered, he could not shake off Chen and Bu, his speed gradually fell as he failed his escape. He deserves it. Jiang Yu and the others felt gratified, they turned towards another direction and tried to escape from the side. Go down. Old Lord Kenyang snorted in anger, using his signature life-chasing fire. Hong Chi Ming followed up with another attack, beating the dog while it was down. He Cheng's body was burning in flames, he screamed in pain as he fell from the sky. With a loud crash, he landed on the ground, he spat out a mouthful of blood as countless vines grew from the ground, tying him up firmly. At once, He Cheng was trapped, while Hui Fengzi was obstructed, Hong Chi Ming left He Cheng as he chased He Lang Zi. He activated his killer move, mercilessly attacking He Lang Zi. He Lang Zi had to use his transformation path killer move, turning into the lightning flash giant wolf to resist it. Fairy Xianxia and the mysterious black-robed Gu immortal were not far away. They were obstructed by Old Man Tianlong and Old Lord Kenyang. They did not waste time in trash talking. The four immortals engaged in fierce combat. At once, winds surged and thunderous explosions occurred. The four immortals displayed their might. They shook the surroundings as intense air currents were created, mountains, rocks crumbled and broke. Old Lord Kenyang was a famous rank 7 Gu immortal. When Dong Fang Chang Fan had been pretending to be dead, he had fought unfettered scholar, Fang Yuan, Pai Shui Han alone. He had excellent battle strength. Old Man Tianlong's strength was similar to Old Lord Kenyang. The former was a supreme elder of Black Heaven Temple. He was sent here by Black Heaven Temple for the secret purpose of countering the Sound Path Gu immortal Feng Jiu Gu. Looking at Shadow Sect, the mysterious black-robed Gu immortal was indeed powerful, but Fairy Xianxia was weaker. After more than 10 rounds of fighting, Old Man Tianlong and Old Lord Kenyang had the upper hand. They obtained a good chance to strike. Immortal killer move, life-chasing fire. Oh no! Fairy Xianxia was shocked. She wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Stand back, let me deal with it. At the crucial moment, the mysterious black-robed Gu immortal used his method, replacing Fairy Xianxia and using his body to block the life-chasing fire. Oh! Strange! Old Lord Kenyang was slightly shocked. The mysterious black-robed Gu immortal was hit by the life-chasing fire, but he was completely intact. It was as if nothing had happened. Sneaky fellow, show us your true appearance. Old Man Tianlong shouted, his hands clapped together as blades flew out from the sky. The mysterious black-robed Gu immortal blocked them as his robe was torn. His appearance was exposed to everyone. Old Lord Kenyang was stunned. You have the blazing glory lightning brilliance physique. One of the 10 extreme physiques, blazing glory lightning brilliance. Why are you afraid? He is merely an immortal zombie. Old Man Tianlong howled repeatedly, his attacks becoming fiercer. The mysterious black-robed Gu immortal's true identity was a rank 7 immortal zombie. Different from other immortal zombies, he had a special identity. He had one of the 10 extreme physiques, blazing glory lightning brilliance, and had turned into an immortal zombie. Humph. Since you found out, there is no point in hiding this anymore. The mysterious black-robed Gu immortal tore off his black robe, pouncing at Old Lord Kenyang. Old Lord Kenyang was a fire path Gu immortal. He was countered by the blazing glory lightning brilliance physique. He had the disadvantage. Old Man Tianlong wanted to help, but Fairy Xianxia risked her life to block him. Quickly go! Fairy Xianxia screamed. Blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie angrily snorted, forcing back Old Lord Kenyang. He did not look back. He flew out of Luopa Valley, successfully escaping. Where are you going? Old Lord Kenyang roared, wanting to chase him, but Fairy Xianxia, who was bathed in blood, managed to block him miraculously. It seems that you have given up on living. Is this immortal zombie your lover? Is he worth your sacrifice? Old Man Tianlong's expression was cold. He descended from the sky and his hand hit Fairy Xiangxia's back firmly. Boom! Fairy Xianxia was at her wit's end. She could not defend herself. Her chest was shattered as a huge hole appeared. One could see through it. Her beautiful eyes turned hollow. Her purple dress fluttered in the sky, like a butterfly slowly landing on the ground. 10 breaths of time later, Fairy Xiangxia's corpse landed on the ground. Her bones and tendons were broken. Her flesh turned into pulp. Fairy Xianxia died. At this point, Shadow Sect no longer had a chance. Old Lord Kenyang and Old Man Tianlong were free now. They could deal with Yilang Zi and Huifeng Zi. Hong Chi-ming's focus was on restricting He Cheng. A moment later, Yilang Zi screamed in a deafening tone. The giant wolf that he had turned into was cut into 2. His corpse turned into a human body. Blood flowed as his internal organs were torn. He died a terrible death. He Cheng was left without a choice. He reluctantly activated the Immortal Gu House Dark Prison. Even though the Immortal Gu House was powerful, it needed to expend a huge amount of immortal essence. After the 100 Days battle, He Cheng was already bankrupt. He did not have much immortal essence left. There was insufficient immortal essence to activate the Immortal Gu House Dark Prison. It had less than 1% of its full power. Hong Chi-ming used his Gu formation to trap it. 15 minutes later, Hui Fengzi lost as well. He was extremely fast and slippery, but after the 100 Days battle, everyone knew each other's abilities. He did not have any special techniques left, and the Central Continent Gu Immortals had an extremely tight defensive ring, like an impenetrable net. Hui Fengzi was like a fish that was caught in a net. Even though he struggled intensely, he was bound to lose. "Don't kill me, I surrender." At the moment before death, Hui Fengzi surrendered with a pale expression. The Central Continent Gu Immortals looked at each other, expressing their joy. Death was truly a terrifying thing. A wise man submits to circumstances. The Central Continent Gu Immortals understood why Hui Fengzi surrendered. "Don't play tricks. Hand over your immortal Gu." The Central Continent Gu Immortals did not relax. They surrounded Hui Fengzi tightly. Hui Fengzi did not have any chances left. He sighed deeply as he handed over his immortal Gu. Without his immortal Gu, he was like a tiger without its claws and teeth. His threat level dropped. Only until he was completely under control and his life and death was at their whim did the Central Continent Gu Immortals breathe out deeply in relief. Focusing their minds, they started to deal with the immortal Gu House Dark Prison. Hui Fengzi's surrender gave the Central Continent Gu Immortals hope. The 100 Days battle expended a huge amount of their immortal essence. The Central Continent Gu Immortals suffered great losses. Their pressure was immense. After capturing Hui Fengzi, the immortal Gu they obtained were enough to recoup their losses. If they could obtain the immortal Gu House Dark Prison as well, they would earn a huge profit from this. 7 minutes later, Dark Prison was taken down by the Central Continent Immortals. But unexpectedly. Where is He Cheng? So decisive. He abandoned this immortal Gu House immediately and escaped. While we were capturing Hui Fengzi, he secretly dug underground and escaped. He really managed to deceive us. Humph, a coward who is afraid of death, a person who is barely surviving, he is not worth considering. At this point, the escape attempt of Shadow Sect's side had ended, the battle was over and the dust had settled. Qin Baisheng, Fairy Jiangyu were sacrificed, He Lang Zi died, Hui Fengzi surrendered, the Blazing Glory Lightning Brilliance Immortal Zombie had escaped with the crucial immortal Gu. He Cheng, who had the lowest battle strength, abandoned the immortal Gu House Dark Prison and escaped. A few months ago, these people attacked Langya Blessed Land with overwhelming might. Over 100 days later, they were either dead, injured, had surrendered, or escaped. Even the powerful Qin Baisheng was sacrificed inside Luopa Valley. This showed the cruelty of the Gu cultivation world. Even at Gu immortal level, they were not free from danger, one could still die easily. More than 10 days later, a figure emerged in Earth Trench. Earth Trench was under the control of Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. It was guarded by Dark Flow Giant City. But this mysterious figure could enter and leave easily. He did not attract any suspicion. After entering Earth Trench, the mysterious figure was familiar with Earth Trench's terrain as he moved rapidly, taking a shortcut and entering deep into it. A few days later, a giant graveyard appeared before the mysterious figure's vision. "I am finally here." The mysterious figure finally showed his appearance. It was the Blazing Glory Lightning Brilliance Immortal Zombie who had escaped from Luopa Valley. As it turned out, Shadow Sect's backup plan was hidden here. Back then when Central Continent's group attacked Luopa Valley, Qin Baisheng and Jiangyu had thought of breaking out and coming here to use their trump card and resolve the crisis in Luopa Valley. But this trump card was extremely important. If it was used abruptly, it could disrupt Shadow Sect's plan. Qin Baisheng and the others were hesitant. When they had resolved to use it, the battle had already become very intense. They had no chance to do it anymore. They tried it forcefully, but only sacrificed the hairy man Gu Immortals in vain. Now, Luopa Valley was taken over by Central Continent's group. The Blazing Glory Lightning Brilliance Immortal Zombie did not come here thinking of revenge and activating Shadow Sect's backup plan. He wanted to hide himself, and place the crucial immortal Gu here for safekeeping. This immortal Gu was related to Shadow Sect's crucial plan, it could not be lost. For this, Qin Baisheng and Jiangyu had sacrificed their lives. Just a bit more time, we just need a bit more time. The Blazing Glory Lightning Brilliance Immortal Zombie felt anger and melancholy. he carried the immortal Gu and entered deep into the graveyard. This was the graveyard of immortal zombies. He was an immortal zombie, it was too easy to disguise as a member. However, just when the blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie thought that his ordeal was over, and that he was safe, a figure appeared. Interesting, to think that I would meet a 10 extreme physique immortal zombie here. The person looked at the blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie, evaluating with an interested tone, his rank 8 aura was emanating. At this moment, the blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie felt like he had fallen into an icy abyss, his heart was filled with despair. Old ancestor Shuehu. Why is he here? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 926, Refining Star Thought Immortal Gu. Chapter 926, Refining Star Thought Immortal Gu. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Who Immortal Blessed Land, Underground Cave. The Blood G forest had already spread out to an area of over 30,000 square meters. At the center of the Blood G forest, the Blood Lingji shined with a dark red light, but currently the light of wisdom had already overpowered it. At this moment, Fang Yuan was bathed in the wisdom light halo as he sat and concentrated. His expression was calm, he was like a statue, but his mind was working rapidly, countless thoughts were created and destroyed, they crashed into one another like a meteor shower, or the eruption of a volcano. He grunted. Fang Yuan's body shook, he slowly opened his eyes. His mind, which was undergoing a storm made of thoughts, had returned to a peaceful state. He frowned, thinking deeply. 2 streams of blood slowly flowed down from his nose. The immortal zombie body's blood was pale green, there was no warmth at all, it was icy cold. Fang Yuan indifferently cleaned up his nosebleed, he evaluated, it seems that the Gu formation that I newly created still has many flaws. Ever since he had become a Wisdom Path Grandmaster, he had obtained countless inspirations. As for how to use Wisdom Gu more efficiently, he had many new ideas. This Gu formation was created by him not too long ago. Not long ago, he had a low Wisdom Path attainment level and could only use the light of wisdom directly. Now, with this Gu formation, he could intensify the rate at which his thoughts collided. Even though it could not raise the effect of his deductions, it could save him a lot of time. Wisdom Gu was rank 9, while Fang Yuan was merely a rank 6 immortal zombie, it was already very difficult for him to use the light of wisdom. This Gu formation could be considered a significant breakthrough. Furthermore, this Gu formation was not in its original state, it had been modified several times. The first few versions had all sorts of flaws, once, the Gu formation even exploded inside Fang Yuan's body. When he used it this time, Fang Yuan withstood the backlash of the Gu formation and suffered a minor injury. The Gu formation still needs to be modified, but that is not key. Now, the difficult problem is the modification of the Star Thought Immortal Gu recipe. Fang Yuan frowned even deeper. A few days ago, Blazing Heaven Demoness had recruited Fang Yuan, he used this chance to request the refinement of Star Thought Immortal Gu to her. Both sides came to an agreement, Blazing Heaven Demoness was very generous about funding Fang Yuan. She provided the materials to refine Star Thought Immortal Gu for him, dispatching Bo Dan to send them over. These immortal materials were very precious. Not only were they expensive, if Fang Yuan had to collect them himself, he would need to expend a lot of time. Only Blazing Heaven Demoness, using her rank 8 cultivation level, her zombie alliance status, and her deep foundations could gather 3 sets of these immortal materials in such a small amount of time. Fang Yuan was well prepared, he naturally got to refining Gu. But he had tried 3 times consecutively and failed them all. Fang Yuan was mentally prepared in regards to failing. After all, he did not have the success Dao mark from the Refinement Path Convention this time, he could only rely on his own skills and luck. Relying on skill was easily understood, but why did he have to rely on luck? Looking at the example of Star Thought Immortal Gu, during the refinement process, there was a step that needed 2 immortal materials. He needed a portion of pale flame white bones, and a portion of green beetle water lotuses. The former was a fire path immortal material, the latter was a water path immortal material. At this step, the two immortal materials have to be processed at the same time, fusing water and fire, to create a clear liquid. But this step was very difficult. There were fire path Dao marks on the pale flame white bone, and water path Dao marks on the green beetle water lotus. To process them and form the clear liquid, the fire path Dao marks and the water path Dao marks have to be equal in number. Even if they were not equal, the difference had to be very small. That was the only way the fire and water could cancel out each other. If one side was higher, more than the range allowed, the liquid would be extremely murky. This sort of murky liquid could not be used. But the liquid could not be stored for long, it needed to be refined right before use. Fang Yuan did not have a time path immortal Gu to seal the state of the liquid. Thus, Fang Yuan had to create the liquid while refining immortal Gu. And the difference in Dao marks was extremely subtle. Even if Fang Yuan focused all his attention and used his best methods, he could not inspect all of them, he could only estimate. Fang Yuan was not a fire path or water path Gu immortal, he was already reaching the limits of his investigative abilities. Thus, the immortal Gu recipe strictly stated the age of the green beetle water lotuses, as well as the amount of pale flame white bones. But even so, even among green beetle water lotuses of the same age, they would have different water path Dao marks on them due to the environment that they were in. If the pale flame white bones were damaged, there would also be fewer Dao marks on them. All of the Gu refinement materials met the immortal Gu recipe's requirements after Fang Yuan checked them meticulously. But when they were used in practice, there was bound to be failure. To refine the clear liquid, there was luck involved in it. The entire immortal Gu refinement process had many such examples like the fusing of water and fire. Succeeding once or twice was not difficult. The difficult thing was to succeed every single time. Thus, the success rate of refining immortal Gu was extremely low. Many Gu immortal went bankrupt trying to refine an immortal Gu without success. Immortal Gu were a huge boost to the Gu immortal in all aspects. Because of the existence of heavenly tribulations and earthly calamities, Gu immortals had an even more intense desire in regards to immortal Gu. But in the history of Gu cultivation, there were countless instances of immortal Gu refinement failing. These painful experiences landed countless people in terrible straits. At present, many rank 6 Gu immortals did not even have a single immortal Gu. Gu immortals would rather attempt to capture wild immortal Gu than take a risk and refine immortal Gu themselves. Of course, there was another reason: refinement path attainment levels differed between Gu immortals. Many Gu immortals did not have the confidence to refine immortal Gu themselves. Especially when it came to immortal Gu with higher ranks, Gu immortals would have even less confidence in refining them. In the past, even two venerables, Giant Sun and Thieving Heaven, had to ask Long-Hair Ancestor to help them refine immortal Gu and immortal Gu houses. Fang Yuan was modifying the immortal Gu recipe in this aspect. When he became a Wisdom Path Grandmaster, his Star Path attainment also rose to Grandmaster level. This gave him the ability to modify the immortal Gu recipe of Star Thought. Including this current deduction, he had already modified many aspects of the original immortal Gu recipe. 11 processes that were similar to this water and fire fusion had been taken out, they were replaced with more stable steps with higher success rates. Looking at the time, Blazing Heaven Demonis is about to send me the 4th set of Gu refinement immortal materials. With Blazing Heaven Demonis funding, Fang Yuan's financial difficulties had been alleviated. Blazing Heaven Demonis had been wanting to attack Yulu Blessed Land. She was generous in allowing Fang Yuan to refine Star Thought immortal Gu. She would not stop until he succeeded. But she was not easy to fool. If Fang Yuan wanted to use the excuse of failure to cheat Blazing Heaven Demonis and get the Gu refinement immortal materials, he would not succeed. Even though Blazing Heaven Demonis agreed to fund Fang Yuan, they had made an agreement: all of the funded immortal materials would become Fang Yuan's debt towards her. Whether he succeeded or not in refining the immortal Gu, he would need to pay her back later. The longer he dragged this on, the more interest Blazing Heaven Demoness would receive. If Fang Yuan successfully refines the immortal Gu but fails to return her the sum in 100 years, then Blazing Heaven Demoness would be allowed to take an immortal Gu from Fang Yuan as compensation. If it were Shark Demon who gave this condition, Fang Yuan would not agree to it, he would propose one that suited his interests more. But this was the demanding and domineering Blazing Heaven Demoness. Fang Yuan also needed to refine Star Thought Immortal Gu as soon as possible, he could only agree to it. Thus, it was in no way suitable to cheat Blazing Heaven Demoness funding. Fang Yuan failed 3 times, the losses were all on him, he already owed Blazing Heaven Demoness a huge debt. Fang Yuan could clearly discern some of Blazing Heaven Demoness' plans. Even if Fang Yuan could not repay his debt, with the wisdom path attainment that he displayed, Blazing Heaven Demoness could make use of it and force Fang Yuan to work for her. After all, wisdom path Gu immortals were very rare. Those with Fang Yuan's level of attainment were extremely useful subordinates. If Fang Yuan succeeded in refining Star Thought Immortal Gu, Blazing Heaven Demoness would be even happier. Because this would allow her to take down Yulu Blessed Land. The conclusion was that Blazing Heaven Demoness would only earn from this regardless of what happens. After failing 3 times, the pressure was all on Fang Yuan. According to my current situation, I can only do 7 refinement attempts. Now, I have already failed 3 times, I have 4 chances left. In terms of refining Gu, I have already reached the limits. I can only work harder in terms of luck. Fang Yuan thought it over. He had Connect Luck Immortal Gu, he could forcefully link to other people's luck and boost his own luck. But there was a drawback with this. Even though Fang Yuan had Connect Luck, he did not have Break Luck along with it. He could only connect, but not break. If the target of his luck connection became unlucky, Fang Yuan would be implicated. Thus, Fang Yuan had chosen several targets earlier, these people had extremely powerful luck, they were moreover unceasing and would not fade or become bad over time. But these people were very rare, in the entirety of the 5 regions, looking over his previous life, there were only so many of them. Fang Yuan calculated, the remaining ones have not been born yet. Among them, Song Yishe had already killed the ancestor of Li Xiaoyao on the Nameless Island, there is no way he can be born now. The soonest and best target can only be Fairy Black Moon. Fairy Black Moon was very incredible. In Fang Yuan's previous life, she was the current generation fairy of Spirit Affinity House. She was one of the most outstanding characters in Spirit Affinity House. Her status was similar to Mo Yao in the past, or even higher. This was because in the 500 years of Fang Yuan's previous life, there was a great era of turmoil. The 5 regions were in unprecedented chaos, the appearance of dream realms broke the balance of the different forces, a new Gu cultivation path, dream path, was produced, everything hinted towards the emergence of great dream immortal venerable. In this great era, heroes emerged, conquerors surfaced, capable people were everywhere, dragons and snakes rampaged all while Fairy Black Moon remained as the representative of Spirit Affinity House, one of the 10 great ancient sects, she had incredible talent, it was surely first-rate in the 5 regions. Furthermore, Fairy Black Moon led the central continent Gu immortals to attack Imperial Court Blessed Land, she had outstanding achievements and incredible battle strength, her methods were also profound. Ever since Fairy Black Moon emerged, she grew stronger with each battle, turning disaster into fortune, her luck had been very strong. She was indeed an ideal target for Fang Yuan's luck connection. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 927, Fang Yuan's Opportunity. Chapter 927, Fang Yuan's Opportunity. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Unfortunately, Fairy Black Moon wore a mask and had a mysterious status, I do not know her true identity. In my previous life, she was like a rising sun, she was dazzling and bright, there was no biography on her. Maybe she is still an ordinary disciple in Spirit Affinity House, or maybe she is the descendant of a Gu immortal. In short, I have too little information, there is nothing I can search for about her. Since he could not find Fairy Black Moon, he could only look for other, inferior targets. These people were also very famous characters. But they only had strong luck for a period of time, it was not long-lasting. Several of them had large fluctuations, some even had great misfortune after a period of good luck, dying in the process. If I use connect luck on them, my luck can become very strong in the short run, I can surely refine Star Thought Immortal Gu successfully. But I do not have break luck, when they become unlucky, so will I, sacrificing the long-term prospects for such small temporary gains, is it really worth it? Fang Yuan was hesitant. If he had break luck Immortal Gu, this was not a problem for him. But whether he could obtain break luck in the future, Fang Yuan had no confidence in that. He was never a person who would do something in which he had no assurance of the outcome. Placing his hopes of success on pure chance, Fang Yuan would not do that. He was indeed willing to gamble and take risks, but he was actually very careful and meticulous at the same time. If not for that, he would not have gotten so far. Several days later, Blazing Heaven Demoness sent over sufficient immortal materials for him to refine Gu again. But Fang Yuan was no longer in the mood to refine Gu. He had just heard some shocking news. Not long ago, Northern Plains Zombie Alliance was infiltrated by old ancestor Xuehu. The latter went deep into Earth Trench and secretly ransacked many precious immortal Gu and immortal materials. If old ancestor Xuehu was not exposed, Zombie Alliance could only let this matter go. But the problem was, an intense battle caused old ancestor Xuehu's tracks to be exposed. Zombie Alliance had to make a response to this. Zombie Alliance was huge, it spanned across 5 regions, their territory had just been infiltrated and looted casually, how could they allow it? If they did not punish such wrongdoers, Zombie Alliance's reputation would suffer, their authority would be undermined and many forces would look down on them. How could they hold their ground in the Gu immortal world and compete with other forces? Any organization's face represented a certain extent of benefits. Moreover, just now, old ancestor Xuehu was found in the immortal zombie graveyard. This greatly provoked all the Zombie Alliance immortal zombies, they burst into anger. Immortal zombies had a lot of Dao marks in their bodies, they were excellent Gu refinement materials. But an immortal zombie's immortal aperture was dead, thus, they held their own bodies in high regard, this was the last bit of pride they had. Therefore, immortal zombies placed much more importance on their bodies than ordinary Gu immortals. The immortal zombie graveyard was a place in Zombie Alliance that could not be defiled. But their sanctuary was ravaged by old ancestor Xuehu, could they ignore this? Old ancestor Xuehu went overboard. This violates the bottom line of Zombie Alliance, it seems that he is taking a risk to refine immortal Gu fortune rivaling heaven. He actually became a thief and personally stole immortal zombie bodies. Fang Yuan assessed. He thought about his previous life. In those 500 years, this did not happen. In my past life, Ma Hongyun was alive and well, old ancestor Xuehu did not obtain him, of course he could not refine immortal Gu fortune rivaling heaven. It seems that now, because of my rebirth, everything is changing as my influence grows, old ancestor Xuehu was implicated by me. Old ancestor Xuehu's plight was a good thing to Fang Yuan. In Dark Flow Giant City, Yin Lu Gong, Dragon Commander Yi Cha, and Huang Quan Wang, these 3 rank 7 immortal zombies were standing guard. How could they be old ancestor Xuehu's match? After it happened, they could only watch as he flew away. This matter could not be ignored, the 3 immortal zombies could only seek help from Zombie Alliance's headquarters. Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance flew into a rage, they sent 3 rank 8 immortal zombies, along with 10 rank 7 immortal zombies out to punish old ancestor Xuehu and protect their reputation. Among these 3 immortal zombies, one was Blazing Heaven Demoness, it was necessary for her to go. Why? Because Blazing Heaven Demoness was the leader of the Northern Plains Zombie Alliance branch. She was supposed to be guarding Dark Flow Giant City. Once this happened, Blazing Heaven Demoness who was in Eastern Sea had to bear responsibility. When a mishap happened to Northern Plains Zombie Alliance, she had to return and fulfill her duty. Once Blazing Heaven Demoness leaves, the mission of taking down Yu Lu Blessed Land returns to Shark Demon and Su by Man. Fate worked in mysterious ways, it really caught people off guard and went beyond anyone's expectations. Originally, Shark Demon and Su Bai Man had no more hope, but because of old ancestor Shui Hu, Zombie Alliance had to focus on protecting its reputation. Thus, Blazing Heaven Demoness had to return to Northern Plains, and the ones left that were most suited to invade Yulu Blessed Land were Shark Demon and Su Bai Man. Ever since Blazing Heaven Demoness forcefully took over the mission of Yulu Blessed Land, Shark Demon and Su Bai Man had been having a hard time, everyone avoided them like the plague. But now, the situation was reversed. After all, there was only one final round in Yulu Blessed Land, Shark Demon and Su Bai Man would prosper soon. With this change in circumstances, many Gu immortals came over to befriend them, to repair the cracks in their relationships that was created earlier. Shark Demon and Su Bai Man were sighing over the mysterious twists and turns in life. Fong Yuan had no time to care about their feelings. Shark Demon was angry at Fong Yuan for turning to Blazing Heaven Demoness so quickly. In this invasion, he did not even invite Tai Bai Yunsheng. Fong Yuan did not give a hoot. Invading Yulu Blessed Land would give him only a small portion of the rewards. It was far less important than refining Star Thought Immortal Gu. And refining Star Thought Immortal Gu was only the icing on the cake. It was less important than getting into Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. After all, since long ago, Fong Yuan had been wanting the inheritance in Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. That was the inheritance of an immortal zombie great expert. It would be extremely helpful to Fong Yuan in reviving from his zombie state. In his previous life, Northern Plains Zombie Alliance obtained this inheritance and gained a huge boost in strength, surpassing Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance for a period of time. Fong Yuan tried to disguise as immortal zombie Sha Huang, in an attempt to make his way into Earth Trench and obtain the inheritance. It was a pity he failed. Feng Jiugu and the others ruined his plans. Left with no choice, Fong Yuan had to give up on it. There were many twists and turns along the way. He joined the Central Continent Refinement Path Convention, he invaded Yulu Blessed Land, and even obtained 2 or 3 ways to revive from his immortal zombie body. However, his initial goal was still not achieved. Now, it was the best chance for him to make his way into Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. Before Fong Yuan had even made any request, Blazing Heaven Demoness had already requested Fong Yuan to go back to Northern Plains with her. In the letter, Blazing Heaven Demoness' attitude was still domineering as ever, and the reason she gave was also valid and enticing. Northern Plains Zombie Alliance was the base of Blazing Heaven Demoness. She had many immortal materials kept there. She could give Fong Yuan more attempts at refining Star Thought Immortal Gu over there. Or perhaps she was worried about letting Fong Yuan stay in Eastern Sea. After all, the 5 regions' regional walls were hard to pass. The higher the cultivation level, the harder it is to pass, the difficulty multiplied by several times. 100 years ago, Blazing Heaven Demoness came to Eastern Sea from Northern Plains. Most of her wealth was expended as she even got heavily injured. She only recovered after recuperating for 8 years. Now, facing a strong foe like old ancestor Shuehu, Blazing Heaven Demoness was uncertain of how much time it would take to settle. Keeping Fong Yuan by her side was more assuring. At the same time, the Wisdom Path Gu Immortal Xianxia might provide Blazing Heaven Demoness some help when dealing with old ancestor Shuehu. All in all, the chance that Fong Yuan had been trying to create and was waiting for had arrived. It was all thanks to old ancestor Shuehu getting discovered. Towards old ancestor Shuehu, Fong Yuan even felt a hint of gratitude. Several days later. Northern Plains, in the deepest parts of Luopa Valley. The atmosphere was tense. The 5 Gu immortals from Central Continent had solemn expressions as they looked at this inconspicuous place. After the battle had ended, only 2 people from Shadow Sect escaped. The Central Continent Gu immortals who had come to Northern Plains in secret and were very confident had suffered heavy losses. Only 5 were left now. To think that a thieving heaven demon venerable true inheritance was hidden deep within Luopa Valley. Bu Fei Yen sighed. These last days, they had taken control of Luopa Valley, and while being vigilant, they made every attempt to save Feng Jiugu, Ling Mei, and Ao Shui. In the end, they confirmed the existence of the thieving heaven true inheritance, but they could not enter. It is a pity that my sect has no understanding regarding the thieving heaven true inheritances. It is too difficult to enter, we cannot break in for at least 2 to 3 years. Hong Chi Ming said. He was the most skilled in Gu formations among the 5 here. Now that Ancient Soul Sect's old oracle had died, Hong Chi Ming was most suited to speak in this situation. Not mentioning 3 years, the Central Continent Immortals could not even wait for 3 months. In fact, it had been very risky to stay in Luo Pa Valley these last days. After all, 2 Gu Immortals had escaped, what if they lured over other people and attacked again? Actually, even if we know how to get in, we might not be able to save them. This is the arrangement of thieving heaven demon venerable after all. Lord Feng Jiugu is so strong, yet he is still trapped inside without any commotion. It seems that it is very dangerous inside, if we go in, we might not survive. Qin Baisheng had planned meticulously to trap Feng Jiugu in there. If we go to save him rashly, perhaps. The Central Continent Gu Immortals spoke, their words contained deep meaning, their gazes were flickering uncertainly. The 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent were all under heavenly court, but they did not coexist in harmony, they had incessant conflicts. If Feng Jiugu, a 1 in 1,000 years genius, were to die here, the other 9 sects would heave sighs of relief. As for Ao Shui and Ling Mei, they had immortal Gu, if they died here, Heaven's Envy Manor would lose its signature killer move, Peerless Crescent Moon Slash. This was no small loss even to Heaven's Envy Manor, which had a deep foundation. The enemy had left, the age-old inner conflicts between the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent had finally started to vaguely show themselves in these 5 immortals. We infiltrated Northern Plains to investigate the truth behind the collapse of 88 True Yang Building. Even though we took down Luo Pa Valley, Old Oracle has died and Feng Jiugu is trapped, we can only stop here now. That's right, after this battle, we have all suffered huge losses, we need to rest and recuperate now. In my opinion, we should hand over the information of what happened, and the fruits of our investigation over to our sects, that is the most important thing. That makes sense, don't forget, we have captured Hui Feng Zi and the immortal Gu House Dark Prison. These gains are all extremely valuable, we need to handle them appropriately. As they conversed, the Central Continent 5 immortals silently smiled internally. Why would they save Feng Jiugu? Save him so that he could suppress them? Save him so that he could get a share of the loot? But they were in the righteous path, they needed to act on the surface, and not give others excuses to target them. Now that they had made enough excuses for themselves, the 5 Central Continent immortals agreed on one thing, to return to Central Continent as soon as possible. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 928, Luck Path Backlash. Chapter 928, Luck Path Backlash. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. After passing the regional wall, the group from Eastern Sea finally reached Northern Plains. I am finally back. Fang Yuan sighed. He was disguised as Xianxia Zi, as he stepped on the grassland, his wistful sigh was not just an act. In front of him, Blazing Heaven Demoness' gaze flickered as she muttered softly, "Yes, I'm finally back." She was more deeply moved than Fang Yuan. Even though Fang Yuan was a Northern Plains Gu immortal, he only became an immortal in Northern Plains, he was born in Southern Border. But Blazing Heaven Demoness was born and bred a person of Northern Plains, after 100 years, she was finally back. The 5 regions had varying terrains. Eastern Sea had endless mystical sea areas, Northern Plains was mostly flat and had countless grasslands, plains, and mounds. Right now, Blazing Heaven Demoness had stepped into an infertile grassland, the yellow-brown soil only had a trace of greenery. But Blazing Heaven Demoness felt a strong sense of familiarity inside her. Apart from Fang Yuan and Blazing Heaven Demoness, the other Gu immortals frowned slightly. They were Eastern Sea Gu immortals, they felt curiosity yet unfamiliarity towards Northern Plains. Going from their homeland to another region, they felt a sense of ostracism inside them, they felt out of place from the environment that they were in. Among them, there were 2 immortal zombies with the strongest auras, they were both rank 8. These Gu immortals from Eastern Sea were almost all immortal zombies, there were barely any living Gu immortals. Including Fang Yuan and Blazing Heaven Demoness, there was a total of 3 rank 8s, 6 rank 7s, and 4 rank 6s. They were a powerful group, they had strength in numbers. Old Ancestor Shui, whose actions had truly angered Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance, it sent out such a huge group to Northern Plains just to take revenge. However, all of the Gu immortals were injured now. The rank 6 Gu immortals were lightly injured, the rank 7s had more severe injuries and were in pathetic states, while the 3 rank 8 Gu immortals were weak and had damaged bodies, some were missing arms while others were missing legs. Their bodies were swaying in the breeze, as if about to fall over at any time. The edges of the 5 regions had regional walls. The one surrounding Northern Plains was the Licorice Regional Wall, and the one around Eastern Sea was the Blue Water Regional Wall. Because of the existence of regional walls, the 5 regions were isolated. Furthermore, the regional walls were bigger obstructions against stronger life forms. The difficulty of a rank 8 Gu immortal passing a regional wall was innumerable times as hard as a rank 6 Gu immortal. The Eastern Sea immortal zombies had to go from Eastern Sea to Northern Plains, they had to pass 2 regional walls, the 3 rank 8s were heavily injured, while 4 of the rank 7 immortal zombies died in the regional walls. In contrast, the rank 6 Gu immortals faced less pressure. Among all of them, Fang Yuan had the easiest time. He had the lowest cultivation level, at the bottom of rank 6, at the same time, he was also a Northern Plains Gu immortal. When he entered Northern Plains from Eastern Sea, the Eastern Sea Regional Wall rejected him and pushed him out, while the Northern Plains Regional Wall welcomed him and drew him in. Using the same logic, among the 3 rank 8 immortal zombies, Blazing Heaven Demoness had the lightest injuries. Like travelers from afar returning home, Fang Yuan and Blazing Heaven Demoness received the warm welcome of Northern Plains. If not for the giant Gu formation in Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance's headquarters, we would have to sacrifice at least 1 rank 8 immortal zombie, and half of the rank 7s. Fang Yuan observed silently, at the same time, he inwardly praised Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance's deep foundations. Before they left, dozens of immortal zombies in the Zombie Alliance headquarters activated a Gu formation, causing an earth tide. Once in a while, an earth tide would generate in Eastern Sea. Drawing the force of the earth from deep within the sea trenches, a grand force would move the seawater and create an earth tide. An earth tide was extremely powerful, it could easily whip up giant tsunamis. When an earth tide rushes at the regional wall would become thinner as a result, thus, every year during the earth tides, many Gu immortals from other regions would enter Eastern Sea. When Fang Yuan and the others set off, the earth tides were over already. To think that in Eastern Sea Zombie Alliance's headquarters, there was a method to create an artificial earth tide, weakening a portion of the Eastern Sea regional wall for a short period of time. If not for this, Fang Yuan and the others would have suffered greater injuries. What do we do now? After resting for a while, a rank 8 immortal zombie broke the silence. The other Gu immortals were focusing their gazes on Blazing Heaven Demoness. Blazing Heaven Demoness was the leader of Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. Among the 3 rank 8 immortal zombies, she was the strongest in terms of battle strength, thus, she was primarily directing the group in this mission. Blazing Heaven Demoness did not hesitate, she smiled, according to a reliable source, old ancestor Shui, who has already returned to snowy mountain-blessed land. We should not rush there, we should rest and recuperate and recover our battle strength, that is the best course of action. The immortal zombies nodded in agreement, there were no objections. They had just passed the regional walls, their battle strength had dropped to the lowest point, they needed to recover now. Blazing Heaven Demoness did not even go back to Dark Flow Giant City, she chose a hidden and secluded spot. The Eastern Sea Gu immortals went into hiding as they recuperated. This was the same course of action as taken by the Central Continent Gu immortals when they came. There was no other choice, the cost of passing the regional walls was too high. In snowy mountain-blessed land, snow was falling. 3 main peaks with countless branch peaks were situated, like a colossal frost giant that was standing straight. Among them, the first main peak was tall and big. It was the residence of old ancestor Xuehu. Right now, in a certain room on the first main peak, a giant Gu formation was flickering with golden lights. Outside the Gu formation, there was an old man. It was old ancestor Xuehu. But at this moment, it was not him controlling the Gu formation, it was a female immortal. This female immortal looked like she was in her late 20s, she had a beautiful appearance and elegant disposition. It was the second leader of Snowy Mountain, Lady Wanshou. Lady Wanshou was old ancestor Xuehu's wife. She looked much younger than old ancestor Xuehu, but she was in fact much older than him. Lady Wanshou once had a fortuitous encounter and obtained the inheritance of Gu immortal Wangjiu. Not only did she obtain a few lifespan Gu, she also obtained many lifespan extension methods. These lifespan extension methods all had drawbacks compared to lifespan Gu. But lifespan Gu were extremely hard to find. Lady Wanshou's lifespan extension methods were very popular with other Gu immortals. During Lady Wanshou's early days, many Gu immortals had approached her, paying a huge price for her to extend their lifespans. In time, Lady Wanshou helped more and more Gu immortals. She had extended more than 1,000 years worth of lifespan. Not only did she receive countless cultivation resources, her strength also rose drastically. She built a strong network and was very popular. Many Gu immortals needed her services. They naturally did not dare to offend her. They promoted her as her reputation soared far and wide. Lady Wanshou was not only skilled at extending lifespan, she was also a refinement path quasi-great grandmaster. She was known in Northern Plains Gu immortal world as one of the 4 refinement path experts. Quasi-great grandmaster, she was only a step away from great grandmaster level. In terms of refinement path, Fang Yuan could not compare to Lady Wanshou at all. As for old ancestor Xuehu, he was an ice and snow path expert. He was also inferior in refinement path. Thus, whenever old ancestor Xuehu wanted to refine Gu, he would ask Lady Wanshou to do it. But now, Lady Wanshou was using this refinement path Gu formation not to refine Gu, but to temper an immortal material. This immortal material was dug out by old ancestor Xuehu from deep in Earth Trench, inside the deepest part of the Zombie Alliance immortal zombie graveyard. It was palm-sized and was shining in purple gold light. It was like a rock. The refinement path Gu formation shined brightly and made great rumbling noises. A while later, the Gu formation settled down, and the light also dissipated. The mysterious purple gold rock that had turned completely red now cooled down quickly. It went back to its previous state. Old ancestor Xuehu looked at Lady Wanshou with an expectant gaze. He was asking her wordlessly. Lady Wanshou frowned slightly. She shook her head. Even you cannot tell what this mysterious purple gold rock is? Old ancestor Xuehu was surprised. This immortal material is truly extraordinary. I have already used my Gu formation to its limits, but I could not refine it. This is the first time I've seen such a situation. I need to research it carefully. After saying this, Lady Wanshou changed the topic. Dear, you were too careless. It would have been fine if you were not exposed when stealing immortal zombies. But now that you have exceeded Zombie Alliance's bottom line, they are sure to take revenge. You need to be careful. Old ancestor Xuehu nodded. He said heavily, this time, I was overconfident. My original plan was progressing smoothly. I almost looted the entire immortal zombie graveyard, but suddenly, a blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie appeared. This is a superb immortal material for refining fortune rivaling heaven Gu. I got too excited and tried to capture him. To think he had already set up a Gu formation in the graveyard, I was careless and could not conceal the sound of the battle. Thus Northern Plains Zombie Alliance was alerted. Oh. Old ancestor Xuehu sighed deeply. Now that I think about it, it was likely the interference of fortune rivaling heaven immortal. Lady Wanshou said in a heavy tone, fortune rivaling heaven immortal Gu is rank 8, it is to be expected that you were influenced. This is the core immortal Gu of giant sun immortal venerable. When I was refining Gu recently, I have been failing a lot too. It is likely the effect of fortune rivaling heaven Gu. But dear, just now, you have obtained a large number of immortal zombie bodies, the rate of immortal material collection was raised drastically. As long as we can refine fortune rivaling heaven immortal Gu, all of this would be worth it. Ever since old ancestor Shui who bought Ma Hongyun, he had been using the latter as the main material to refine the rank 8 fortune rivaling heaven immortal Gu. This matter was not advantageous to Ma Hongyun, thus, old ancestor Shui Hu and Lady Wan Shou faced the backlash of fortune rivaling heaven immortal Gu. Not only them, many Gu immortals of snowy mountain blessed land had received old ancestor Shui Hu's orders to collect immortal materials, but they constantly faced bad luck and many mishaps happened to them. Actually, previously, old ancestor Shui Hu had already experienced a backlash from luck path. That was when Fairy Li Shan had just obtained Minuscule Mountain, it attracted the attack of Yao Huang and Heavenly Lord Bai Zhu. But fighting both of them alone, old ancestor Shui Hu forced them to retreat. Luck path was not invincible by any means, old ancestor Shui Hu used his immense strength to resist the backlash of luck path. Just now, it was a near guaranteed success that he would steal the immortal zombie bodies, but due to the luck path backlash, he became careless, and the matter was blown up. The more difficulties we face in refining fortune rivaling heaven Gu, the more we can see the power of this immortal Gu, and the more determined I am to refine it. Don't worry, I have already placed Dark Flow Giant City under close supervision, if anything happens, I will know immediately. We will resist whoever comes here, I want to see if Zombie Alliance can really invest so much into this. Old ancestor Shui Hu laughed, he displayed the dominance and ambition of a demonic path overlord. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 929, Plotting Against Old Ancestor Shui Hu. Chapter 929, Plotting Against Old Ancestor Shui Hu. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. The huge Dark Flow Giant City was situation in a desolate land. Darkness loomed over it, the giant city was like a slumbering beast, quietly lurking. Ever since old ancestor Shui Hu had ransacked the immortal zombie graveyard, Dragon Commander Xianxia and the other two leaders had closed the entirety of Dark Flow Giant City, showing a defensive stance. Dark Flow Giant City was focusing on defense, no matter how other forces tried to probe it, they could only obtain a bit of information. When night came, Blazing Heaven Demonis led the other Eastern Sea immortal zombies and secretly returned to Dark Flow Giant City. Subordinates Yin Lu Gong, Dragon Commander Yi Cha and Huang Quan Wen welcome leader and both lords, greetings to everyone. The three currently in charge of Northern Plains Zombie Alliance paid respects, they could not conceal the uneasiness and agitation in their expressions. Get up. You were facing old ancestor Shui Hu, it was not your fault. Blazing Heaven Demonis said first. Yin Lu Gong and the others sighed in relief, their worries were eased. Their lives had been very difficult these last few days. On one hand, they were waiting for the reinforcements from Zombie Alliance's headquarters, but at the same time, they were worried about their responsibility towards this matter in terms of negligence. Old ancestor Shui Hu was too arrogant, he has to pay the price, we of Zombie Alliance are not to be trifled with. Another rank 8 immortal zombie said. The surrounding immortal zombies looked at him in admiration, they quickly voiced out their agreement. This rank 8 immortal zombie was known as Corpse Detonation King, he was most skilled at using the smallest cost to ignite immortal zombie bodies and cause terrifying explosions. He had a bad temper and was ruthless, when he passed the regional wall, he wantonly attacked allies who disagreed with him and killed them. Among the 4 rank 7 immortal zombies that died, 3 were dead because of him. Their corpses were blown to bits, completely shattered, they created a huge explosion in the regional wall which allowed Corpse Detonation King to advance forward. Leader, when are we counterattacking? When we attack, please let me be the vanguard. Yin Lu Gong and Huang Quan Wang saw the reinforcements from Eastern Sea and felt a strong sense of enthusiasm, they requested to help. Blazing Heaven Demonis was not anxious, she said leisurely, this matter is very important, let's go look at the crime scene first, we need to collect evidence there. That's right, looking at these traces, we might be able to estimate some of old ancestor Xuehu's methods. Another rank 8 immortal zombie, Pu Wan Dao, nodded in agreement. Even though they were greater in numbers, they were all immortal zombies. Compared to living Gu immortals, they had many drawbacks. Most importantly, the other party was not an ordinary person, they could not pressure him easily. This was someone who could fight both Yao Huang and Heavenly Lord Bai Zhu alone and force them back. He was a fearsome character, the publicly recognized number 1 demonic path Gu immortal in Northern Plains Gu immortal world. Next, the immortal zombies moved without pause, secretly going to Earth Trench and analyzing the battlefield. The battlefield was well preserved by Yin Lu Gong and the others. The immortal zombie graveyard was a mess, the surface was covered in large amounts of frost, some crevices even had some fire burning in them. Everyone displayed their abilities as they investigated. Fong Yuan was among them, but his mind was wandering. He gazed around, but his mind was elsewhere. He was looking for the treasure, but this treasure was not inside the immortal zombie graveyard, it was far deeper in Earth Trench. How can I obtain this treasure without anyone else knowing? I have a feeling this inheritance will surely be of huge help to me. Perhaps I will have to rely on it to get rid of my immortal zombie body and revive. Fong Yuan was becoming more excited about it. But currently it was a pity that he was unable to leave the group, he could only follow them as they left Earth Trench, returning to Dark Flow Giant City. After observing the battlefield, the immortal zombies' expressions turned very ugly. Even Corpse Detonation King and Pu Wan Dao had grim expressions. Even though they did not engage in battle personally, just looking at the traces left behind, they could estimate old ancestor Xuehu's immense power. But this made everyone feel that there was something strange, it was the person who could fight old ancestor Xuehu to this extent. Who is this person? With rank 7 cultivation level, he had outstanding battle strength, even already having set up a Gu formation in the graveyard itself. They seem to be an immortal zombie as well, but why do I not have their details in my list of names? Blazing Heaven Demoness frowned deeply, she asked Yin Lu Gong and the others. Yin Lu Gong, Dragon Commander Yi Cha, and Huang Quanwang smiled bitterly, they admitted blame in unison, we have failed our duties, we were kept in the dark and did not know that there was such a person hiding in Earth Trench. Blazing Heaven Demoness snorted coldly, her expression turned cold, investigate thoroughly. I feel that this is not so simple. Old ancestor Xuehu's appearance here can be explained. He needs to refine fortune rivaling Heaven Gu but is lacking in immortal materials. But why did that mysterious immortal zombie appear in our Northern Plains Zombie Alliance graveyard? Looking at this situation, he had been here for a long time already. No need to investigate. At this time, the rank 8 Gu Immortal Corpse Detonation King interjected, this person is a member of Zombie Alliance. We are here now to rescue him. Beside him, Pu Wan Dao added, Lady Blazing Heaven Demoness, and everyone from Northern Plains Zombie Alliance, do forgive us. This person is not ordinary, he is a 10 extreme immortal zombie with outstanding battle strength. Because he is on a secret mission from Zombie Alliance, for his safety, he was kept hidden. Zombie Alliance's headquarters has sent down a top priority order, we have to work together to rescue this blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie. It was like this. The immortal zombies showed looks of shock. Yin Lu Gong and the other two were slightly taken aback before their expressions turned grim. Dragon Commander Yi Cha cupped his fists at the people from Eastern Sea, I wonder what secret mission this blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie was on, that he had to come to the highly important immortal zombie graveyard in our Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. Corpse Detonation King replied coldly, this is not something you are qualified to know. Alright. Blazing Heaven Demoness stood up, she tried to ease the situation, our enemy now is old ancestor Xuehu. Since that immortal zombie is one of us, we will save him as well. Yin Lu Gong and the others nodded in agreement. Fong Yuan watched coldly from the side. This secret was kept from even Blazing Heaven Demoness. She was, after all, a Northern Plains immortal zombie, even though she had been in Eastern Sea for a long time, she was still isolated from the true core of Zombie Alliance. At the same time, Fang Yuan realized something. Zombie Alliance sent out so many people not only to teach old ancestor Xuehu a lesson, but they most importantly wanted to save this blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie. Fang Yuan saw this interesting situation as he laughed internally. Hee, if this blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie was sent by Zombie Alliance's headquarters secretly as a spy to check on the Northern Plains branch, that would be amusing. Earlier, Dragon Commander Yi Cha was probably trying to ask about this. Lady Blazing Heaven Demoness, you are indeed a valuable member of our Zombie Alliance. If everyone else had your awareness and understanding, why would we have to worry about Zombie Alliance's goal of becoming the overlord of the 5 regions? Ha ha ha. Corpse Detonation King laughed loudly. Blazing Heaven Demoness was kept in the dark, she only learned about the true mission now. But she was a shrewd person, she did not show any displeasure, instead she said, next, let us talk about how we will teach old ancestor Xuehu a lesson and also save the blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie. Corpse Detonation King immediately said, the blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie's body has an abundance of fire path and lightning path Dao marks, he is extremely suited to be used to refine Gu. We should not waste time, we should just approach him directly. Going right at him is just an act of a boor. Blazing Heaven Demoness rebuked, not giving Corpse Detonation King any face. Corpse Detonation King stared as he was about to say something, but Pu Wan Dao also supported Blazing Heaven Demoness. That is right, the other party captured the blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie, he has a hostage. If we go there openly, even if we suppress old ancestor Xuehu, he will use the hostage to threaten us, we will be restricted and all our advantages would be lost. Then we will sneak into Snowy Mountain blessed land and save the blazing glory lightning brilliance immortal zombie. Corpse Detonation King said again. Blazing Heaven Demoness snorted, outside Dark Flow Giant City, there are countless hidden investigators, some must come from Snowy Mountain blessed land. With just this, we can see how alert old ancestor Xuehu is, Snowy Mountain blessed land is sure to be heavily guarded. It is not realistic to sneak in, it is like surrendering ourselves to them. Of course. Corpse Detonation King, you are incredibly powerful and have amazing skills, if you want to, you can go yourself. I am sure that with your strength, you will succeed. You. Corpse Detonation King was lost for words, he showed an ashamed and angry expression. Then, in your opinion, what shall we do? Pu Wan Dao placed his hand on Corpse Detonation King's shoulder as he asked Blazing Heaven Demoness with a sharp gaze. Blazing Heaven Demoness smiled proudly, even though old ancestor Xuehu is strong, and Snowy Mountain blessed land is heavily guarded, it cannot conceal his greatest weakness. Someone asked, oh. What weakness? Blazing Heaven Demoness looked around as she said, fortune rivaling heaven immortal Gu. Fang Yuan had no interest in dealing with old ancestor Xuehu, when the immortal zombies were discussing about schemes excitedly, he was thinking about how to get to the treasure deep inside Earth Trench. After an exchange of words, Blazing Heaven Demoness regained control as the first in command. The immortal zombies planned and arranged their roles. Blazing Heaven Demoness did not let Fang Yuan go with them, she gave him one mission only, that was to continue refining Star Thought Immortal Gu. She even gave Fang Yuan a token, it provided him the highest representation of her authority. With this token, Fang Yuan could freely enter or exit Dark Flow Giant City, as well as the resource points that were controlled by Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. He could even enter the storage and use the precious immortal materials that were accumulated inside. As long as they were used to refine immortal Gu, he just had to register what he took. The terms were relaxed and in his favor, Fang Yuan could not help but be surprised by this. Does Blazing Heaven Demoness still want to take down Yulu blessed land? That is not possible. Not mentioning how long it would take to solve this issue with old ancestor Xuehu, now that Shark Demon and Su Bai Man have started invading it again, they are sure to make use of their time and invite Wisdom Path Gu immortals to help regardless of the cost. But once I have Star Thought Immortal Gu, together with my Wisdom Path attainment level, I can deduce many things. Maybe Blazing Heaven Demoness wants to make use of my ability in this regard to deal with old ancestor Xuehu. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 930, Creating a Chance to Enter Earth Trench. Chapter 930, Creating a Chance to Enter Earth Trench. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Boom. There was a loud sound, but the power of the explosion, on the contrary, was not big. The endless starlight flickered leisurely in the secret room, like fluttering butterflies. Looking at such a beautiful scene, Fang Yuan's expression was very unsightly. Failed again. This time, the refinement of Star Thought Immortal Gu did not even progress to 1/3. Fang Yuan exhaled and waved his sleeve. Immediately, everything was cleared, the starlight disappeared without a trace and the large secret room once again recovered its tranquility. This was a secret room in Northern Plains Zombie Alliance. Fang Yuan had obtained enough immortal materials here, thus, he made another attempt at refinement, but tasted the bitterness of failure once again. Despite using Immortal Killer Move Time Assist Luck before refining every time, the effect is not much. In terms of Connect Luck, there are no suitable targets. Forget it, I have already showed enough efforts on the surface, now I should try to enter deep into Earth Trench and get that inheritance. Fang Yuan naturally wanted to get the inheritance as soon as possible, but in many matters, haste was waste. If he did not refine Star Thought Immortal Gu and just tried to go into Earth Trench hurriedly, it would no doubt be exposing his intentions. It would be easily seen through, this naturally could not be allowed. Although Fang Yuan entered Northern Plains Zombie Alliance, the current problem was he did not have freedom and was strictly guarded by 2 immortal zombies. Fang Yuan understood that he was being monitored. After all, he had failed many times in refining the Immortal Gu and owed Blazing Heaven Demoness a huge amount. If he was not monitored and ran away, what would she do? Even though when they had set the agreement, Blazing Heaven Demoness had used information path methods and both sides were restricted by Immortal Killer moves. But at Blazing Heaven Demoness level, as the saying goes, the more aged and experienced a person is, the less recklessness they have, the more knowledge they have, the more careful they are. Who could be certain if Fang Yuan did not have a way to break the restrictions? And Fang Yuan indeed did. His previous life's memories gave him knowledge of many methods that could break immortal level restrictions of information path. But he did not have relevant Immortal Gu, so at present, he did not have the ability to break the restrictions. Moreover, he sincerely wanted to refine Star Thought Immortal Gu, thus he was cooperating with Blazing Heaven Demoness. But now, his even more wanted to secretly take that inheritance. During these last days in Dark Flow Giant City, Fang Yuan tried refining Star Thought Immortal Gu to make Blazing Heaven Demoness feel at ease, while secretly gathering information and making preparations for when he made a move. Compared to previously, Dark Flow Giant City had already opened its city gates, resuming its dealings with the outside world. The immortal zombies' morale gradually started rising and they were in high spirits. Blazing Heaven Demoness led the experts to deal with Old Ancestor Xuehu, using a rather intelligent strategy. She did not attack directly, instead exploiting Old Ancestor Xuehu's greatest weakness. What was Old Ancestor Xuehu's greatest weakness? Almost all Northern Plains Gu immortals knew. That was fortune rivaling Heaven Gu. Old Ancestor Xuehu was wholeheartedly trying to refine fortune rivaling Heaven Gu, but he severely lacked immortal materials, even though he already had Ma Hongyun, the main material. This concerned rank 8 Immortal Gu. He needed to prepare many sets of materials and do everything to maximize the possibility of success. Thus, his requirements towards immortal materials were extremely huge. Those demonic path Gu immortals of Snowy Mountain Blessed Land were already endlessly at work from Old Ancestor Xuehu. They were in constant torment in order to find the materials. Even Old Ancestor Xuehu let go of his status, and personally sneaked into the immortal zombie graveyard in Earth Trench, like a 2-bit thief. This showed Old Ancestor Xuehu's extreme desire towards immortal materials. Blazing Heaven Demoness used this point to actively deploy and transfer experts to deal with those demonic path Gu immortals of Snowy Mountain Blessed Land in particular, using ambushes, plots, wrecking plans and various other strategies. These demonic path Gu immortals already had enough pain as it was when gathering immortal materials. Now that they suffered the backlash of luck path, the immortal zombies had a high success rate every time they moved against them. As these attempts continued to succeed many times, Snowy Mountain Blessed Land's morale unavoidably fell, while Zombie Alliance's morale gradually rose, sweeping away the previous dejectedness. Fong Yuan opened the door to the secret room with an ashen expression. 2 rank 6 immortal zombies were standing guard at the entrance. Seeing Fong Yuan, an immortal zombie called Dr. Xian immediately bowed. "Sir, you have come out. I wonder if this refinement." Fong Yuan gave a grunt, waving his hand in irritation. "Don't bother me." Saying this, he walked away. "Humph, who does he thinks he is, to be so arrogant in our base?" The other immortal zombie, Landlord Lei Yu's eyes flickered with ominous light as he looked at Fong Yuan's receding figure. However, Dr. Xian did not care about being ignored, brightly smiling as he followed closely behind Fong Yuan. Fong Yuan walked ahead, taking a left turn and then a right, arriving in front of a hall. This was the biggest immortal material warehouse in Dark Flow Giant City, and was personally watched by an immortal zombie. Seeing Fong Yuan as well as Dr. Xian and Landlord Lei Yu, the immortal zombie in charge familiarly nodded towards them. Knowing Fong Yuan was here to get immortal materials, he handed an information path Gu worm to Fong Yuan. Fong Yuan held the Gu worm, and pretended to inspect the immortal material list inside, while plotting inwardly. Blazing Heaven Demonis, Corpse Detonation King and Pu Wan Dao have already left Dark Flow Giant City 2 days ago to target the demonic path Gu immortals of Snowy Mountain Blessed Land, and have not returned until now. This is an opportunity, I need to take advantage of it. Right at this time, the immortal zombie managing the warehouse enthusiastically spoke. "Sir Xianxia, you can take any immortal materials you want. Leader has already informed us, and you only need to register the items. You don't need to have any worries." Who knew that right as he finished speaking, Fong Yuan stared at him with a fierce look. "What worries would I have? Why would I have any worries? I am good." Fong Yuan looked like a mess with his hair and clothes in disorder, and also very agitated. One look at this appearance, and the managing immortal zombie knew Fong Yuan must have failed the refinement. This immortal zombie was dazed for a moment before thinking, "Serves me right, why do I have to shoot my mouth off? Whether his refinement succeeds or fails, what has it got to do with me?" At once, he kept quiet to prevent any further issues. However, Fong Yuan was not willing to let go. He crushed the information path Gu worm, and walked away with his head low and hands behind his back. He was grumbling, "Damn it, why is it still not working, why is it always a failure? I have already failed 4 times, why is it like this, why?" Dr. Xian and Landlord Lei Yu looked at each other, and both sensibly stayed away from Fong Yuan. Fong Yuan, however, became more restless and started swearing while clenching his fists. His words were extremely vulgar and occasionally, he mumbled incomprehensible words. Dr. Xian tried his best to differentiate them but he could only make out some fragmented contents. Do I really have to use that method? No, the price is too high. Damn it, this damned immortal Gu, why am I not succeeding? Fong Yuan revealed hesitation, seemingly having to make an extremely difficult decision. His eyes were very red, giving the impression of a gambler who had already lost most of his assets but decided to go all in to win back the losses. Screw it, I will stake it all. This time, it will definitely succeed, definitely. Right, it will succeed. The 3 immortal zombies watched on indifferently, and as they looked on at Fong Yuan's restlessness, the disdain and hate in their heart disappeared slightly, replaced by a trace of pity. Many Gu immortals had faced such a situation. To refine an immortal Gu, they paid a huge price, but they end up making no gains and might even lose all their wealth. It was like stepping on a road of no return, looking at the dozens of years of accumulation, even hundreds of years of resources go to waste. It was unavoidable for them to become irrational and chase after success, unable to turn back, walking further and further on the road of failure. Fong Yuan suddenly stopped and turned around, looking at Dr. Xian and Landlord Lei Yu. I have decided, you 2 pack up and follow me into Earth Trench. Fong Yuan's words gave a huge shock to the 3 immortal zombies. Entering Earth Trench. Dr. Xian's expression changed. Earth Trench was a dangerous place with ferocious beasts roaming around and perilous terrain. Who knew how many lives have been buried there? Blazing Heaven Demonis had ordered them to monitor Fong Yuan, naturally it also meant they had to guard him. Hearing Fang Yuan suddenly speak of entering Earth Trench, how could Dr. Xian agree? Landlord Lei Yu also did not agree, saying firmly, "We will gather any immortal materials you require, sir, you don't need to take the risk." "What do you understand, huh?" Fang Yuan raised his voice, his gaze revealing an arrogant look. "Both of us have received leader's command to ensure your safety, sir. Sir, if you enter Earth Trench and something happens, how can we explain it to leader? Please don't make it difficult for us." Dr. Xian gave a bitter smile, requesting earnestly. Why would Fang Yuan care about his sincerity? He raised his arm and roared, "What does your difficulty have to do with me? I only care about refining goo, I only know I need earth shell snail star night mucus. Earth shell snail star night mucus. Sir, please hold on, I will check." Dr. Xian immediately said. He also had information path goo worms on him which contained the records of most of the immortal materials in Zombie Alliance. Soon, Dr. Xian showed a joyous look as he retracted his consciousness. Earth shell snail mucus is the fluid left behind by the desolate beast earth shell snail as it slowly crawls on the ground. We have it, we have it. Currently, in warehouse number 6, there are 2 to 3 in stock, will they be enough? If they are not, we will immediately issue a task and summon immortal zombies to gather them. Fang Yuan bellowed furiously, scolding while pointing at Dr. Xian's nose. Have you become deaf or is there a hole in your brain? Didn't you hear what I said? Earth shell snail star night mucus. Star. Night. Mucus. Not ordinary mucus, do you understand? He then hurriedly continued, Earth shell snail mucus needs to be sealed and stored within 10 breaths of time, otherwise the fluid will dry up and lose its effect. Star night mucus is produced by using my special methods to process the ordinary mucus on the spot. The processing requires 7 breaths of time, and even if the processing is complete and star night mucus is produced, its sealing process is complicated and needs to be finished within 3 breaths. So I need to enter Earth Trench, can you do it without me? If you can do it, I will eat my hat. For a moment, Dr. Xian and the others choked on their words, unable to retort to Fang Yuan's scolding. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible.